guys? Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive presented by PrizePicks. Got a nice little 6-game slate tonight. Hopefully a little bit of a palate cleanser from last night's slate, which was pretty crazy. Unfortunately, we got one of the best to break this down and help us avoid some landmines. Adam, shit my money, Scherer. Adam, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty well. Definitely ready to move on from yesterday. That slate just was not good for me, so definitely ready to get on to today.
Yeah, so it might be worth recapping just a little bit of last night's slate because Oklahoma City, like an hour before lock, they're like Xavier Simpson and Georgios Kalazikis are starting. And most of us were like, who? Like, what? But then they played like only 6 guys basically for the game. Like, the pretty weird shenanigans, I would say. So, what are you expecting tonight? Is there any other spots that we need to be really looking for?
Yeah, I mean, last night was wild because we got that report with OKC also where they were like, yeah, they're going to dress 10 guys, but they're not going to play 10 guys. It was really bizarre. You know, you and I talked about it a little bit before the show, and I talked about it on the show with Lofty and the video with Greg earlier. I have a theory that OKC goes back to normal tonight. You know, obviously we'll talk about that when we get to that game. But I think Detroit is another kind of similar spot where we've seen them do a lot of weird stuff recently. You had the game where they benched 2 or 3 starters at halftime. You've had other games where they just close with random, random bench units. Tonight they play Dallas. They're 11-point dogs at home. I'm a little bit more bullish on their minutes here. And we'll talk about that when we get to them, but that's definitely another team where between them and OKC, those are the two that I expect to really be the most difficult to project and have the most volatility in their minutes.
Yeah, definitely. So get to those games as we go along here. And then one other thing, I guess I'll save that for a little bit here, but yeah, so let's just jump in the game by game breakdown. Before we do, guys, if you could hit the like button, that gives us the positive feedback we need to give you our best takes. And then we also some big news right off the bat here. But anyway, okay, so if you can hit subscribe, that lets you know when we go live, and also you see more of our DFS content in your feed. Tonight we have a bunch of free content on the site: the NBA player rankings, the PGA golfer projections for the Masters. How's that free? That's crazy. And the NHL player projections, as well as the podcast giveaway to get a free month. So make sure to check those out. Let's get to the first game here in Dallas at Detroit. So Dallas still competing for playoff seeding. They're 8.5-point favorite versus Detroit, a team that has shown signs of tanking pretty hard. So on the Dallas side, Maxi Kleber, he missed last game, but he's out again tonight. So what have you seen with him being out? How has that affected people from a DFS standpoint?
So it bumps up Dwight Powell. He's averaged about 28 minutes per game in the games that he's played without Kleba and without Porzingis this year. He played about 31 minutes in Dallas's most recent game. Makes him look better. $4,700 price tag. I think pretty reasonable spot against Detroit. Beyond that, I don't think Kleba has too much of an impact. Like, I'm expecting a lot of minutes for guys like Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith. They're not the best point per minute guys, so still not priorities. But I do think they play a lot. Luka clearly is the number one guy from Dallas. I think he's the top pay up option on the slate. That's reflected in ownership as well, with him coming as he was the 4th highest owned guy on DraftKings. I need to refresh now. Still the 6th highest owned guy now on DraftKings, just behind Trae Young as far as pay up options. But should expect 37 minutes or so from Luka. He's got a 38.8% usage rate, 40% assist percentage in the games he's played with Brunson and Dinwiddie. So I think he obviously looks very good here against Detroit.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, Luka, every slate he plays is going to be a big threat, and they're motivated to win. As far as the rest of the guys on the team, it does seem like it's a little bit of slim pickings. Jalen Brunson is someone that slightly above 5K or 5X. Dwight Powell, 1 point above 5X. So no one's really jumping out. How confident do you feel in these Mavs guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think their relative value just kind of went down once we got the Utah news, we got the Phoenix news. When we did the show this morning, I was a little bit more interested in Brunson and in Finney Smith and Powell. I still think that they're fine in terms of secondary plays that aren't that popular and that you can feel pretty confident in their minutes. But it's just really difficult now to say like, oh, I'm going to play Jalen Brunson instead of Jordan Clarkson or Cameron Payne or guys from those late games that are missing a ton of players.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's some good plays on today's slate, so we don't need to be diving for scraps, especially in the first game of the night. Let's go to the Detroit side. So for Detroit, Corey Joseph remains out. Rodney Magruder is listed out for this one, as well as Marvin Bagley and Kelly Olynyk. So a little bit of shortened Detroit rotation. However, we saw them pull Cade Cunningham, Sadiq Bey, and Isaiah Stewart after playing only 6 minutes 2 games ago. So that is definitely going to shake one's confidence in picking these guys again. Do you think they're worth taking a shot on, or is it just a situation where this is way too risky?
So I think it's kind of site dependent because on DraftKings you have Cade Cunningham at 8,800, you have Sadiq Bey at 7,300. Those are price tags where not only do you need them to get at least close to their full run, but you also need them to play well in a pretty difficult matchup against Dallas. On FanDuel though, you have Sadiq Bey at 5,400. I do think that's a pretty interesting price tag. I don't have a ton of confidence in what they're going to do with the rotation, but like I said at the beginning, I'm a little bit more bullish on their minutes here because I think that one trend that I've kind of noticed over the last couple of weeks is it seems like when teams are playing other bad teams, they really go out of their way to just do ridiculous stuff, and the rotations get really weird. And they seem to play a little bit more straight up against good, against playoff teams. Even looking at Detroit, last game against Indiana, another bad team, you had the Pistons close with their second unit. 2 games ago was against OKC where they benched Cunningham and Bey and Stewart basically right out of the gate. 3 games ago was against the Sixers, another team, in playoff contention. Cade Cunningham played 36 minutes, Bey played 32. That was also the most recent home game for Detroit. So just another, kind of mini narrative where I think teams are probably a little bit less likely to do completely random stuff when their fans are paying to come watch. Kind of a tough sell with your fans if you're like, hey, pay to come out and watch Cade Cunningham play 6 minutes. So, again, not that guarantees anything, but I think that I think there's a pretty good chance that you actually get decent minutes from guys like Cunningham and Bey, but they're still really expensive on DraftKings, whereas on FanDuel, Bey in particular at 5,400, I actually think makes sense.
Yeah, man, that's tough because what if Detroit gets up to a big lead in the first half,
right,
versus Dallas? Like these guys overperform, then does that same dynamic come into play where all of a sudden they're resting the second half? But as you said, it is a home game, so that does seem like a pertinent factor here. With that in mind, are you kind of thinking these guys play their normal minutes? Are they going to play a little bit less minutes because it's the end of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I still couldn't bring myself to go 36 minutes on Cunningham like I would have a month ago. But I think, 32, give or take, on guys like Cunningham and Bey, Killian Hayes in that 30 to 32-minute range. Same for Isaiah Livers, who has been getting a lot of run one way or the other. I'm pretty comfortable going there with these guys.
Okay. Yeah, that's reassuring because some of the pricing on these guys is pretty solid. You got Isaiah Stewart at only 4,900. Not a lot of centers left in Detroit. They don't have Kelly Olynyk or Marvin Bagley or Luka Garza. So it looks like maybe Braxton Key or Livers are kind of backing up Stewart. But is there anyone else on this team you'd be considering? One of the things that I'm struggling with is is it going to be Saban Lee getting all the backup point guard minutes? Is Carson Edwards? They just signed him to a 2-year deal. I guess the second year is not guaranteed or whatever. But is he going to get enough minutes to be fantasy relevant? Or maybe we just stay away from all the cheap guys here?
Yeah, I mean, that's I don't have a good answer for that either. I mean, like Carson Edwards played the last game, Saban Lee didn't, but Saban Lee played a couple of games ago before they had signed Edwards. So my assumption is that Edwards is going to get low 20s in minutes at 3,500. That makes him look okay. Similar answer for somebody like Frank Jackson at 4,200 or Braxton Key at 4,300. But I don't. Like I think Key plays around 26. I think Jackson can play around 26. Edwards probably like 22 ish. It kind of makes them look decent, but this is another team where I thought they looked better. I was more willing to roll the dice and gamble on these guys this morning than I am now. Now that we've gotten a bunch of other value opened up, and that's reflected in the ownership as well. This morning, I think Edwards was like 17% on DraftKings. Now he's 6. Key is down to 3. Livers is at 3. I basically see it the same way where on these cheap young guys on Detroit, if you are playing 150 lineups and you land on one here or there, they're low enough owned where I don't mind gambling there, but they're not guys that I'm prioritizing because realistically, I have no idea what this rotation looks like or really even who's in it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling too, where they have some guys kind of coming back with Saban Lee and Jamarco Pickett, who had been on the G League squad, not listed on the injury report today. So a little bit tough to know exactly what the rotation will look like in Detroit. All right, Brooklyn at New York. Brooklyn gunning for that playoff seeding. They're in the play-in game right now, from what I remember. But obviously very motivated to win this one. They're facing the Knicks, a team that is completely out of the playoff picture. But the Knicks do have Tom Thibodeau as the coach. So it's like maybe they're just going to keep doing what they're doing because that seems to be what the case has been. Start with the Nets. So on the Nets side, Goran Dragic is out, and James Johnson is also out today. So nothing too much to report from an injury standpoint. What are you seeing here in Brooklyn?
Yeah, I think Brooklyn's a team that is more appealing for the I'm looking at FanDuel. More appealing for the most part in tournaments than in cash. It's another team where I think that there's good plays here because, like you said, they are one of the only teams on this slate that really does need to win today. So you can feel pretty confident in their minutes. You know, if this game is competitive, you're likely getting at least 38 to 40 minutes from Durant. Same thing for Kyrie Irving. Bruce Brown should be at 30 to 32. And none of those guys are getting a ton of ownership. Durant's at 12%, Irving's at 10 or 11, Brown's at 6. And the reason they're not getting that much ownership is that you still, like, you have Luka Doncic, you have Trae Young. So there's guys that project a little bit better, but we still know the type of ceiling that Kevin Durant has. You know, he's exceeded 70 DraftKings points in 2 of his last 4 games. Kyrie Irving has, you know, a similar type of ceiling as well. So I do like getting to those guys in tournaments. And then even the center position is interesting to me because, like, yesterday we only got 20 minutes from Andre Drummond, but he was in foul trouble. He picked up his 4th foul, like, 40 seconds into the third quarter, and you got 26 minutes from Nick Claxton. So you got close to 48 minutes from those two at center. LaMarcus Aldridge played about 18 minutes alongside Claxton. So I think that if Drummond can avoid foul trouble here, there is still a path to him getting, you know, 26 minutes or so. And at 6,100, you know, he's not safe, but there is still a really high ceiling for someone that's only projected for 2% ownership. So, and then, you know, on the other side, Claxton at 3,800. If anything happens with Drummond, you're getting more minutes for Claxton. So across the board, I really just think the Nets are going. They're kind of just at awkward price points where there's a better play or two at their respective positions or salaries, but there's still a lot of upside in all of these guys.
Yeah, definitely. Drummond has been particularly like tough to put a finger on the minutes because it seems like some games he's played up to like the high 20s. Then last game, the foul trouble. But even in other games, he'll play like low 20s, not necessarily like close the games very frequently. So it's not like, I guess he's been closing more recently, but he's not like a key player in their strategy. One other thing that I saw is LaMarcus Aldridge came back last game. He'd been available, but didn't play in the previous few. He's played a lot of center for the Nets this year, but he played mostly power forward in the last one. Do you think that kind of threatens the other centers with Drummond and Claxton at all, or do you think it's not going to be a huge impact?
So my expectation is that it's not a huge impact. Like I'm assuming he plays the same role he did yesterday, which is basically take James Johnson's minutes. But the fact that he was on the floor, it certainly makes me a little bit less comfortable with Drummond than Claxton. Like it wouldn't be shocking if suddenly you get a center rotation where it's like 20 minutes for Drummond, 16 for Claxton, Aldridge plays the rest, and then he picks up some more minutes at the four, and like, you know, Bruce Brown slides down or Kessler Edwards plays more or whatever the case may be. That certainly can happen, but my expectation is that we just see a similar rotation to what we saw yesterday.
Okay, cool. Now, Kyrie and KD, obviously guys that are key players for Brooklyn making this playoff run. They have prices to reflect that, with 10K for Kyrie, 11.3K for KD on DraftKings. Like they are showing as kind of negative values. I think part of it's because New York is a little bit of a slower paced team. Like maybe this game won't be as high fantasy scoring. But are they going to be guys that you're going to take a chance on tonight despite the poor points per dollar?
The Brooklyn guys?
Yeah, Kyrie and KD.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I like them in tournaments just because they're not getting the same ownership as guys like Luka and Trae Young. But I also agree that they're not the same level of priority as those guys because they just don't project quite as well. Like Luka projects quite a bit better than Durant for $700 more on DraftKings. Young projects, I think, several points better than Kyrie for $500 more. So it's just a situation where I still think they are good tournament plays, but they also just don't project quite as well as some alternatives.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I agree. Maybe a dart throw here and there, but probably not key parts of the strategy tonight. On New York, we haven't seen much change in their rotation. RJ Barrett hasn't been playing like insane minutes recently, though. And Obi Toppin has been filling in for Julius Randle. He played a lot of minutes in the last game with 35. So that was obviously a lot more minutes than we're used to. He's only 5,600. So let's start with Toppin. Does he want a value play you feel pretty confident in tonight?
Yeah, I think Toppin looks really good. I mean, he's giving you 30. He's averaged about 33 minutes per game in the games that he's played without Julius Randle. He's about a fantasy point per minute guy. And the price tag just really hasn't adjusted that quickly yet. 5,600 for him, assuming he's going to play low to mid 30s and get you about a fantasy point per minute. It's just very obvious that he's underpriced there. And the other thing is that's kind of nice about the Knicks. Even though they're not playing for anything, they really don't have a lot of bodies. They haven't added a bunch of 10-day contracts or guys like that, and they're missing so many guys. Like you have Miles McBride and Quentin Grimes both questionable today. Behind them, I'm pretty sure all that there really is Ryan Arcidiacono. So it's a situation where even though they're not playing for anything, and I do think that, I agree with you that you should probably be taking a couple of minutes off of RJ Barrett's projection from when he was playing, 38 to 40 every night. I still feel pretty confident that you're getting a rotation that revolves around the guys that we're expecting it to.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So not expecting too many changes in New York. So with that in mind, I mean, Evan Fournier is kind of showing as a decent value at 4,600. Quickly, he played a ton of minutes last game, but the salary has come up a lot to reflect that. And then I'm not seeing a ton else here. Who are your favorite Knicks?
Barrett Toppin's my favorite, and then Barrett I still think looks good, even if you give him around 35 minutes. Over a fantasy point per minute guy without Julius Randle, usage rate is well above 30%. So I still like the ceiling that he offers. And then I think it's a step back, and you get guys like Alec Burks. Emmanuel Quickly certainly has a high ceiling. You see his assist percentage go up and his usage rate go up. In the minutes he's played the most minutes on the team this year without any of Randall, Kemba, or Derrick Rose on the floor. And in those minutes, Quickly's averaged 1.1 DraftKings points per minute. He has about a 25% usage rate and a 30% assist percentage. He can also very easily take minutes away from Evan Fournier. So I do think that in tournaments Quickly makes some sense. Similarly, we have Fournier projected to go a bit under-owned here. Only $4,600, 6% ownership on DraftKings. I have no confidence in the guy, but he does have a 22% usage rate in the games he's played without Randall, Kemba, and Rose. And if he's knocking down shots, he can get more minutes. So I think that any of Barrett, Burks, Toppin, Robinson, Quickly, and Fournier are solid plays, but I think Toppin and Barrett are the two at the top for me.
It looks like the field is reacting pretty strongly to Evan Fournier's game last one, where he only played 15 minutes, but it does look like he picked up 3 first-half fouls that limited his minutes, and the fourth came in the third quarter. So, I'm kind of chalking that up to foul trouble, and I think that's why he's coming out under-owned, is because those minutes were so low last game. Is it worth kind of going for a bounce back here?
Yeah, I mean it's not a spot that I feel good about, but it is a 6-game slate where you're getting a $4,600 guy that, if he plays well, can give you 32 minutes. So Fournier is like the exact type of guy that, if I'm going to play him, I really prefer it being at low ownership. Like slates where Fournier comes in at 20 to 25%, I'm very willing to just accept my loss if he does well, because he's so inconsistent and frankly not good. But if if the field's just going to give him to me at low ownership, then I am pretty interested.
Nice.
I think rules wise too, like you probably don't want Quickly and Fournier together. Like I definitely think there's negative correlation in their playing time.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know how much Quickly I'm going to get to tonight, given 6,100 tag, but actually he's not a bad value. And now that I'm looking at our projections to your 30 fantasy points, so always good to get those negative correlations like out of the possible lineups you generate. So that's a good call. Before we get to the next game, I want to mention all the tools that we have for you on Awesemo.com. So you can get access to player projections, ownership projections, the boom bust tool, where we give also the optimal lineup chances for every player, the lineup builder, and Discord, of course. So our NBA packages start at $4.95 a week for Express, or $16.95 for the full package. And then also a Fantasy Cruncher add-on is a huge tool. All of these things you can add to your arsenal to really up your game in DFS. So make sure to check out Awesemo Plus. All right. Next game, we got Washington at Atlanta. Washington's another team that has been out of the playoffs for a while. Doesn't seem like it's really impacted the way they've been playing recently. One thing I did notice last game is that Daniel Gafford somehow got like a huge minutes bump. He played like 31 minutes, and I was wondering if you have any insight into why that was, because if he did get those minutes again, that'd be huge. But like he was at 15 the other day, the last game before that. And it doesn't look like any key people are out.
Yeah, they cut Anthony Gill out of the rotation yesterday. So part of the reason Gafford got so many minutes was garbage time, but he also played like 10 minutes alongside Kristaps Porzingis, and they hadn't been playing alongside each other at all. So I don't really know what to make of that, because I do know that Washington likes Anthony Gill. Like he's just one of those guys that they like getting minutes as, a kind of last guy in the rotation. But I don't know. I mean, he played 0 minutes. They ran an 8-man rotation, and if that happens, then Gafford is like if you tell me they're running an 8-man rotation today, Gafford is arguably the best value play on the slate. But I still don't have any confidence that they're doing that. Like I can't bring myself to just project him for 26 minutes or something. But I do think you can give him an extra couple of minutes just because they showed yesterday that they are willing to play Porzingis alongside him. They also won that game. They blew out the Timberwolves, so that is another reason, maybe you see them go back to that. And then it's also not an entirely different matchup here. Whereas like with Minnesota, you have Jared Vanderbilt pretty much, staying around the basket. And normally you have the 4 defend Karl Anthony Towns. Here you have Capella hanging out around the basket. And then you're going to have some combination of, DeAndre Hunter, TLC, maybe Gallinari. They certainly could go that route if they want to. It's not like Porzingis hasn't played the 4 for like massive stretches in his career. So, I do think giving Gafford a couple of extra minutes makes some sense. I'm certainly not willing to go all the way up to 26 or anything like that.
Yeah, now that you're kind of putting this in the context of Atlanta's team, who is playing pretty small recently, although Gallinari could be back for this one. Kind of wondering if maybe Gill gets back in the rotation, but I guess we'll find out. But Gafford, that seems like one where like there is a chance that if you go back to Gafford after his big game the other day, like he could get the minutes again and be like a killer play. It doesn't seem like he's super high owned, but Do you worry about the back-to-back event? Like, I can't remember if he has like a big injury history or anything, but it does seem like his minutes have never been that high throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean he's had some injuries, but I don't think it's anything that they're like I would expect them if they're going to be cautious with anybody, I would expect them to be cautious with Porzingis before Gafford, but I don't think it's going to be the case with either one. To me, it's just like at 4K and low ownership, even if you give Gafford, like 18, 19 minutes, like around his average, he looks fine. And then if you give him a couple more minutes just to account for the fact that he he doesn't need to play. I guess my point is like he doesn't need to play even close to 10 minutes alongside Porzingis tonight to be a really good value. If they're just like, hey, here's 2 minutes or 3 minutes with Porzingis on the floor, even that difference is enough at 4K to make him, I think, stand out.
Yeah, he does stand out as a good value, and like there's a huge upside that we saw last game. Thanks, Corey, for the super chat. He says, Alex, one time for the peeps, give us a clear eyes. I think that one went over my head. I'm not on the show every day. Is that some meme?
I have no idea.
All right. Well, clear eyes. All right. My filler arc, a little early, but is Rudy Gobert worth a shot or pivot to Hassan since OKC and pay up for Capella? I think Gobert, maybe he gets a couple more shots with Donovan Mitchell and Conley off the court. I don't know if you saw, like, did you hear like that Donovan Mitchell interview question where they're like, why don't you pass the ball to Rudy Gobert
No,
more?
I didn't.
Like, he was just like, I think I make all the right plays or something. So I'm like, okay, well, if Mitchell's off the court, maybe the other guys will pass to Gobert more. Like, I don't know
I
if that's
don't.
something.
Nobody on that team passes to Gobert.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. So,
Like I think there was a pretty good thread on it or about it on Twitter the other day where they just like still framed it, and Gobert is like in the post with size and just wide open for the pass, and Mitchell's like looking him off. But like Mitchell doesn't pass to him, Conley doesn't pass to him, Bogdanovich doesn't pass to him. I don't think he can catch is the issue. Like he fumbles so many passes and then puts the ball down and gets it stripped and whatever. Like I don't think they have any confidence just giving him the ball in the post.
yeah, that's fair. That's probably not their best way to score. All right, so we have a couple of injury notes here. I'm kind of wondering with the clear eyes thing. I made me think of that real eyes thing. But anyway, Olivier Sarr is waived from the Thunder now. So that was a piece. We'll get to that one in a short amount of time, but Royce O'Neal is doubtful. We haven't covered Utah yet, but that seems pretty significant. Do you have any thoughts right off the bat here?
Yeah, I mean it's just opening up even more minutes for Utah. It also makes me a little concerned, about playing time for guys like Bogdanovich and Gobert that are starters and as of now are still playing. I don't think you can go too crazy there cutting their minutes, but it does concern me a little bit. But it opens up more minutes, for what any combination of Hernan Gomez, House, Gay maybe gets back in the rotation. There's going to be a lot of minutes to go around for Utah.
It does seem to me like they should want to win this game because okay, if they lose playoff seeding, then they'll play the Warriors. If they well, there's a chance they could drop to I guess there's no chance they could drop to the 7th seed, or maybe I don't know. Anyway, it depends on the tiebreaker. But if they were the 6th seed right now, they'd be slated to face the Warriors. If they're the 5th seed, they face the Mavericks, subject to what happens in the last 3 games. But do you think there would be enough there that, like, with Steph Curry out, like maybe they want to face the Warriors? But is he coming back for the playoffs? I haven't.
I think he's supposed to be back for the playoffs. And Utah did clinch the playoffs. So, like, they're not going to be in the playing game. It's just a matter of do they end up, 4, 5, or 6.
Yeah, like the thing is, like, I'm always just like, is there an incentive to play hard? And it seems like there is in this case, unless you think they would want to play the Mavericks over the Warriors. Or
I
sorry,
think they
the Warriors.
don't really care.
Wait, I got that backwards. So if they want to play the Warriors more than the Mavs, then they would try to lose. Anyway, let's get back to the game by game here. So on the Atlanta side. Well, on Washington, any interest in anyone? Porzingis is kind of popping in the projections. It looks like 8,400. I'm kind of second guessing this one now because it is a back-to-back, and this does seem like a spot where he could play less minutes. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I have him in for 29 minutes, which is basically what he's averaging in the games he's played without Kuzma. He played 27 minutes yesterday, didn't play in the fourth quarter. To somebody in chat, when I mentioned Gafford getting garbage time yesterday, they said there was only like 3 minutes of garbage time. What I was referring to is that Porzingis never came back in the fourth, so neither did KCP. So you had Gafford just close out the game. That's what I was referring to. But I think that expecting 28 to 30 minutes from Porzingis is still fair here. He's cheap. He's 8,400 on DraftKings, 89 on FanDuel, averaging about 1.5 fantasy points per minute in the games he's played without Kuzma. So I do like getting to him. Looks like he's going a little bit under-owned as well. We have him at 23% ownership on DraftKings, but a 29% chance of being optimal. So that looks pretty good. Beyond that, I do like Washington as a whole, but it's more so just kind of spreading things around. So like we've talked about Porzingis, we've talked about Gafford. I still don't really want to play them together because like the ceiling game for Gafford in terms of like if he plays 30 minutes, Porzingis probably isn't playing as many minutes as you want and vice versa. But I do think they're my two favorite plays from Washington. But then you still have Avdia at 5,400, who's playing around 28 minutes and playing really well off the bench. You have Ish Smith at 4,800, who's taking minutes from Tomas Satoransky pretty consistently, averaging over a fantasy point per minute, likely to give you 25, 26 minutes. So this is still a team where I think you can get to a lot of guys. But to me, the priorities are Porzingis. And then if you agree with me on Gafford getting minutes alongside Porzingis, then I think Gafford's actually a really good play as well.
Yeah, I think Gafford, he's a little bit like I guess he's not going to be sneaky per se because he did have a lot of minutes yesterday, but could be pretty interesting despite that. Porzingis, I just bumped him down in the projections a little bit to account for the back-to-back there, so I don't feel very great about Porzingis. On the Atlanta side,
for what it's worth, on his last back-to-back, he played 29 minutes in both games.
Oh, nice. That's pretty good. So
and in the one before that, he played 32 in both games.
I'm still a little bit worried because it's kind of the end of the season. Probably like only 3 games left. So
yeah, I mean they're eliminated. So like that is the caveat here is that they have no reason to push anything. But it seems like they are committed to playing down the stretch from everything they've done.
Nice. My general experience is that like in the very last game, like every single team that isn't playing for something serious, like kind of like treats it as an exhibition game. And then like it gets a little bit like harder to predict, like the further out from that game you go. But like, I don't know if you noticed that, but on the last day of the season, it's just like, even if there's no reason to believe that weird stuff would happen, like you'll get teams playing everyone like 24 minutes or something.
Yeah, I've usually moved on to baseball by then.
That's not a bad idea. All right. On the Atlanta side, Bogdanovich and Gallo are both questionable today. Gallo missed the last game. Bogdanovich played, so that doesn't give us too much information, but I think if we assume those guys play today, what are you seeing on the Atlanta side?
So I think Trae Young is the one that really stands out here. It's been kind of difficult to get to Young recently because it just seems like he's been on a lot of slates where you have, Luka and Giannis and Embiid and Jokic or, some combination of those guys. But today he's really just competing with Luka and he is like $1,500 less expensive on DraftKings. So I like getting there quite a bit. Atlanta is one of the teams today that is still playing for something. They are currently the 9 seed. So they have clinched the play-in tournament, but they're trying to get the 8 seed from Brooklyn and or Cleveland, but they're closer to Brooklyn. So they have a lot to play for here. You can expect 36 plus minutes from Young. He's averaged 1.5 DraftKings points per minute in the games that he's played without John Collins this year as well. So, that obviously looks good. And then Clint Capella, I think you still expect around or about 48 minutes from Capella and Okongwu. Capella should have success in this spot. I think that he should, get 28 to 30 minutes on average, and he's about a 1.15 fantasy point per minute guy. So makes him look good. And then similarly, in lineups where you don't have Capella, you can take some shots at Okongwu, just like we would take some shots at Nick Claxton, where you're just hoping that for one reason or another, Okongwu plays 24 minutes instead of 20, whether it's a blowout, foul trouble, whatever it may be. Because even if you give Okongwu like 19 or 20 minutes, he looks decent at his price. And there's obviously upside if something weird happens in this game. So I think Young and Capella are the priorities, but in tournaments, I don't mind getting to some Okongwu as well. Also, if Bogdan Bogdanovic plays, I do like him. He's only 5,500 on DraftKings with shooting guard and small forward eligibility. He's likely to give you 28 to 30 minutes, assuming this game's close. Typically, he's going to be closing over Luwawu Cabarrot, and just I think is probably $500 to $600 underpriced here.
Nice. Yeah, I'm kind of his minutes haven't been that high recently with Bogdanovic. So I'm kind of wondering what happened there because he had been playing a lot more minutes about a month ago. Have you seen anything?
For one, a lot of blowouts.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, also like he had the 24-minute game against Brooklyn 2 games ago, which was pretty unusual. Last game he played 32. Blowout against Cleveland, blowout against OKC, 29 minutes against Indiana, 28 against Detroit.
Okay, cool. Shout out to Julio G. Thanks for the super chat. He says, where can we find negative correlation stats on players? If not on Awesemo, what site is reliable? So I think Capella and Okongwu is really the quintessential example where, like, basically in the NBA today, if you got two guys that can't shoot threes, they're just not going to be on the court at the same time with the way that teams do spacing right now. So it's really only centers that I worry about the negative correlation in most cases, aside from the fact, like you were saying with New York, where maybe if quickly goes off, like maybe he steals some minutes from Fournier and stuff like that. So how do you try to figure out the negative correlations? Like I usually just kind of look at the centers for that slate and make some rolls in the Fantasy Cruncher.
Yeah, as far as the ones that I care about avoiding in DFS, it's pretty much just guys that aren't going to share the floor together. One way that I typically try and think about it is who can be in the closing lineup. And so like the centers are the most obvious example because like you're never going to have Rudy Gobert close alongside Hassan Whiteside, much less even share the floor with him. Same with Capella, Okongwu, or Claxton and Drummond. So center is the most obvious position. But then, like I mentioned it earlier with Quickly, you can get Quickly playing alongside Fournier, but typically the rotations the Knicks have been running are that they don't. So like that's a spot where either I'll say, okay, I don't want both of them in the same lineup because I think if Fournier plays well, it cuts into Quickly's minutes and vice versa. Or you can, in a case like that, I don't mind using like just saying I don't want more than two of Burks, Quickly, Fournier, because if Quickly and Fournier did play alongside each other, it's probably Burks going to the bench. But to answer the question, it's basically just you can find rotations on like Popcorn Machine and just pay attention to who never plays alongside each other.
Nice. Yeah, I think following the NBA throughout the season, you kind of like figure it out. Yeah. So you can actually save groups in Fantasy Cruncher if you're using that so you don't have to make them every single slate. Let's talk about PrizePicks real quick. So they have daily prop-based contests. You can get a free $100 first match with the promo code Awesemo. And the way it works, you build lineups of 2 to 5 players. You're picking the over or the under on one of their statistics. And they have NBA plus numerous other sports. So you can really leverage your knowledge among multiple different categories of DFS, which is pretty cool. You go to the App Store and download it. And when you do sign up, you can get 1 month free of Awesemo Plus Platinum if you sign up using the link in the description of the video. And then you make a deposit there. Let's look at some props. So, okay. I'm looking at this Luka Doncic under 9.5 assist prop. Now, with Spencer Dinwiddie and Jalen Brunson both playing a significant amounts of time with Luka, I feel like there's more ball handlers. That makes his assist numbers go down a little bit. So I like the under there. We have him projected for 8. The line is 9.5. What props on PrizePicks are you looking at?
Yeah, so sticking with Luka, I like the over 9 rebounds for him. I think that number is just a little bit low. And then also, Tomas Satoransky has a 6.5 point prop. I like the under on that, which sounds crazy because it's really low, but we've seen Satoransky not really playing a lot of minutes, typically giving you like 20 to 22. Ish Smith taking minutes from him, and Satoransky's not a high usage guy either. So basically, I think you just kind of have to dodge him, knocking down a couple of threes, and you should be fine.
Nice. So we can get a little bit of a 3-ball here going. And the way it works, as long as you pick 2 different teams, I believe, then it's a valid construction. So I think you can get both Luka ones and Satoransky. So make sure to check out PrizePicks. If you're not already a member, use that promo code Awesemo for the $100 match plus a free month of Awesemo Plus. All right, let's go to Boston at Chicago. Boston, we have Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Al Horford all probable for this one. So no one is really out, aside from Robert Williams, of course. With that said, I don't see much value here. Although Marcus Smart, he's been getting a lot of usage and assists recently, so not looking terrible. He'd probably be my favorite Celtic. Who are you on the Celtics?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird team. There's a few of them on the slate, but it's like I think everybody, or not everybody, most of the starters deserve like some ownership, but none of them really stand out. Tatum, I think, is the guy that looks the best to me. But then when you talk about that price, there's obviously a lot of guys to compete with. I agree with you that Smart looks fine at 5,900. I'm assuming Daniel Tice is going to start. And if that's the case, he could easily give you like 28 minutes here. 4,600 for him, I don't think is a crazy price tag either. But really, any of Tatum, Brown, Horford, Smart, Tice, I think are decent options. Tatum and Smart probably my favorite too.
Yeah, Chicago plays pretty big, so it wouldn't be surprising to see Tice play a bunch of minutes here. So like that. Let's talk about the Chicago side. Chicago, they're definitely playing for some playoff seeding. They're one game behind the Raptors for the 5 seed, and they could go down to the 7 seed if they don't win another game here. So pretty strong motivation to actually hold on. I'm not sure where the tiebreaker is with the Cavs, so I don't want to say that definitively, but
Chicago can't fall beyond 6.
They can't fall beyond 6. Okay, so the only motivation would really be like, do they want to face the Bucks? So they'd play the Bucks right now, or if they it could be the Bucks or 76ers. They both have the same record. So from that vantage point, it doesn't really become evident whether 5 or 6 is better.
It could also end up being Boston. Like they're in second, but they have the same record. It's just tiebreaker.
Oh, yeah, good call. So really a lot of moving parts here. Zach LaVine is probable. Alex Caruso is doubtful for this one. So with Caruso out, do you think Patrick Williams gets another start? He'd start when LaVine was out. Or do you feel like Kobe White, one of their other point guards, gets the start here?
I think it's Patrick Williams, and that you'll have Kobe White just, still be the 6th man here. It also would make sense for it to be Williams because you don't need more scoring when you have LaVine, Vooch, and DeRozan on the floor, but you do need a defender to contend with, some combination of Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So I think Patrick Williams makes a lot of sense here. I'm assuming he starts and gives you 30 to 32 minutes at $3,500.
Yeah, I think Patrick Williams is my thought too. So he, like, even with 30 minutes, he's only projecting for like 19 fantasy points. So that can be the kind of guy that I really try to avoid because there's just not a lot of minutes volatility. But there aren't very many guys in that price range, which kind of counteracts that. What's your general approach to those guys that don't score very many fantasy points per minute but get a lot of minutes?
Ownership typically plays a bigger role for me on those guys because, like you're saying, they don't look like, if you tell me a bunch of people are playing Patrick Williams, I'm pretty comfortable taking my chances on other guys and, just assuming one or two of them beat Williams, and I'll be in good shape. But if people aren't going to go to Williams, I still think this is a $3,500 guy that's playing 30 plus minutes, and he hasn't been good at all from a fantasy standpoint this year, and that to some extent is to be expected because he's just playing more games with Levine and Vooch and DeRozan. But if you go back to his rookie year, he was like a 0.7, 0.75 fantasy point per minute guy. So I think you do probably see the production come up at least somewhat as the sample size gets larger. And right now he's only projected for 6.5% ownership. So I do have some interest there. Similarly, I have interest in a $3,800 Kobe White and a $3,900 Ayo Dosunmu. I don't have a ton of confidence in any of those guys, but I am just kind of surprised that none of them are pulling more ownership because, like you said, even though I guess now you're probably with Utah going to get a ton of value, but they are just still, I think, a little bit underpriced and not getting that much ownership.
Nice. I think Dosunmu and Kobe White and Patrick Williams all are going to get some minutes bump with Caruso. Doubtful for this one, so they all make a lot of sense. All right, let's talk about the Awesemo Hall of Fame. So Awesemo Hall of Fame is a way that you can win a free month of Awesemo Plus. You just have to download the Awesemo avatar, tweet your win at Awesemo HOF, and then you get that free month. So it's always great to see people in the community having a ton of success too. So hopefully we get some wins tonight, and you can tweet us or the Masters. How about a Millie takedown? That'd be pretty cool. All right, we got Fick. Thanks, Jazz Raz and DFS Golfer for the important content and tools. He had a takedown in the PGA Showdown this past week, so congrats to Fick. Steve Schobert, he finished first in the $70K $4 tournament, 20 max on DK. So congrats to Steve. News God, our very own El Negro Loco. He's been killing it in the parlays. He gave a little shout out to Odd Shopper, hit a nice little single game parlay there. So if you haven't already checked out Odd Shopper, it's a great place to get some good bets. Patrick Lynch said he came in first on FanDuel, playing only one. Thanks to the great info. Best show in the world. Nice. Congrats, Pat. He took down 5K on FanDuel. And then Dave DeRemer, another regular on these. He's been like posting some crazy bets recently, but it looks like he was really hammering Kansas. He got them down 15. That's why these bets paid so much, like 4-1, 3.7-1. So a nice read by Dave there, getting some good live odds. So congrats to Dave. All right. 2 games left. OKC at Utah. Unfortunately, this one is a late one. So the problem is last night the OKC starting lineup really told us a lot. This one starts 2 hours after lock, so it's the penultimate game. Without knowing the starting lineup, it's a little bit tough to really land on anyone from OKC, to be honest. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it is too. So I had mentioned it this morning, and I'll mention it again. My guess is that OKC goes back to a more normal rotation here. They are another team that I think you've seen them do a lot of just really weird stuff when they're playing other bad teams, and it makes sense because not only do they not want to win games, but it's like doubly bad if they give a loss to one of the teams that they're trying to lose more games than. And then also, I don't know if it factors in or not, but there is also kind of like the ethics question of like when you play against the playoff team, should you really be throwing games or not? So it kind of just goes back to, the trend that I was mentioning earlier, where for the most part, we've seen even OKC, like they beat Denver not that long ago. They beat the Suns recently. We've seen them play more straight up against quality opponents. Now, granted, Utah, is resting a lot of guys today too, so I don't know if that's going to impact anything. But my assumption is that they go back to giving minutes to guys like Pokashevsky, Teo Maledon, because the other thing is that these are young guys. Like these are potential future pieces for OKC. There's no real reason that they wouldn't want to get them NBA minutes to close out the season. I think last night's rotation had, at least to some extent, a lot to do with the fact they were playing Portland, which is a hard team to lose to. But the concern that I have here is that you do still have Kalaitzakis and Xavier Simpson, and now Melvin Frazier instead of Olivier Sarr. So you do have two more guys active, and I don't necessarily think that Kalaitzakis and Simpson are just going to DNP this game. If you add those guys to the rotation, you could pretty easily get a situation where, like, instead of playing 34 minutes, Pokusevski plays 28. Teo Maledon plays 28 instead of 34. And these guys' prices have come up to a point where even if they played like 30 to 32, I wouldn't love them here. And knowing that there is a lot of risk in exactly how many minutes they play, I'm really not interested in OKC, assuming they go back to their normal starting lineup. If you get the starting lineup that we did last night, then I think you just go right back to those cheap guys and assume they're going to play a ton of minutes again.
Yeah, the problem is, like, you might already have a lot of positions locked at that point. So is this something you're gonna like be planning your night around at all, or are you just kind of, if the lineup comes out favorably to some of those value pieces, like, you're gonna like make some swaps, but just kind of not necessarily like go out of your way to position yourself to take advantage of that?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to assume that the normal starters are back, or at least the healthy normal starters are back. In which case, I'm probably just not going to get to a whole lot of OKC. And then if we get that starting lineup at 8:30, I'll do what I can to swap to those cheap guys. I should still have plenty of, like, I'll have plenty of spots open in my lineups because I know I'm going to be getting to a lot of Utah. I know I'm going to be getting to a lot of Phoenix. And there's a couple guys on the Clippers I like as well. So I'm not too concerned about that. And I'll just be ready to late swap if I have to.
You mentioned Melvin Frazier. Like, that seems like a guy that could start tonight for OKC.
That's been the trend because they did it with Jalen Horde a few games ago too.
Nice.
So yeah, if that is a good point. If you get what we've seen from OKC, and again, there's no guarantee it happens again, but what we've seen is that if you get a lineup tonight, like let's say it goes back to normal, but instead of Aaron Wiggins, it's Melvin Frazier, or instead of Krejci, it's Melvin Frazier. There's a good chance Melvin Frazier is playing a lot of minutes.
Yeah, I agree with that. The one thing that I'm not sure about is if you do get like Pokusevski and the regular gang and the starting lineup, that doesn't necessarily mean to me that they're going to play as many minutes as they had been playing. Right. So it is a spot where you might want to exercise some caution.
Yeah, that's like, because if you think they're going to play the same amount of minutes they had been playing, like that was before Kalaitzakis and Simpson came up. So if you think that those guys just aren't going to play, then sure, you could argue that Maledon and Pokusevski and all those guys can play a bunch of minutes. But we're talking about a team that is playing for absolutely nothing. It seems more logical to me that even if they go back to their normal starting lineup, they're going to still be throwing some minutes to Kalaitzakis and Simpson.
Definitely. On the Utah side, Royce O'Neal being doubtful now. That adds to Conley and Mitchell being out. And that means there's a lot of ball handling available for other players. First, we got to start with the starting lineup. It's really difficult to project, to be honest. So I think, okay, so you got Bogdanovich and Gobert. Those are the guys that are definitely going to start. Beyond that, I'm kind of like, does Jordan Clarkson get a start today? I'm kind of thinking he moves in the starting lineup, but I don't have a ton of confidence in that. And then beyond that, Hernan Gomez has started some at power forward. But what are you thinking the starting lineup's going to look like?
So my guess is Clarkson. So Trent Forrest is also questionable. If Forrest is in, I think it is Clarkson, Forrest, Bogdanovich, House, Gobert. If Forrest is out, I think it is probably Clarkson, Alexander Walker, Bogdanovich, House, Gobert. But if House is Hernan Gomez, that wouldn't shock me. If Jared Butler is Forrest, that wouldn't shock me. But those are that's my best guess.
Okay, cool. So with that in mind, the guys that are kind of popping in value are Gobert, Trent Forrest, Clarkson, Bogdanovich, and then the other guys are all at 3K. So they're looking like good values. How are you going to approach this in DFS?
So Gobert looks good at 7,900. The only concern is, does he play 28 minutes instead of 32? That wouldn't be surprising. But even if he gets 28 minutes, he looks okay here. if you are concerned about that, then maybe you play a little bit of, or either way, I think you can play some $3,600 Whiteside in tournaments too. Obviously not in the same lineup as Gobert. But Jordan Clarkson looks very good at 5,400. He's averaged 1.08 DraftKings points per minute without Conley or Mitchell on the floor this year. So I think he looks really good. Bogdanovich is at 0.94 DraftKings points per minute. Probably plays 28 to 30 minutes would be my guess at 5,200. If Trent Forrest is in and starting at 3K, he looks like a good value. He's only averaged 0.65 DraftKings points per minute without those guys, but he would probably get upper 20s in minutes and look good at 3K. Similarly, Daniel House, if he's starting, looks good. He has averaged 0.84 DraftKings points per minute without those guys. Alexander Walker is 3K flat, so even if he's coming off the bench, you're probably getting low to mid 20s from him. So that makes him look good. Jared Butler at 3K is a good point per minute guy. So I think rules end up being really, really important with Utah. And this is a situation where you're kind of thinking about closing lineups. We know that Gobert and Whiteside aren't going to play alongside each other. Assuming that they don't do anything weird and bench Bogdanovich at halftime, you would expect Clarkson and Bogdanovich to be in the closing lineup. And then you're probably just looking at one of House, Gay, Hernan Gomez, Pascal, and one of Forrest, Alexander Walker, Butler. But you could alternatively, you could just say max 2 of that entire group that I named.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. Part of this, thanks Stan the Horny Man for the $1.69 super chat. All right, he says Gafford or McGee, and that leads into the next game, Phoenix at LAC. McGee and Biyombo both look like pretty tremendous plays with DeAndre Ayton out. You got to think they're going to split the minutes as center. So would you go with McGee or Gafford?
So McGee I think is the one that you're more confident in, but you're also right now talking about we had 2% ownership on Gafford and 40% on McGee. So it's a situation where McGee projects better without a doubt. But if you do need to save some ownership or have a spot where you need to pivot, I do think Gafford does give you a really high ceiling, even though he's less likely to hit it because we just have no idea how many minutes he's really going to play.
All right, Goody, thanks for the super chat. He says max 1 group between McGee and Biyombo. Which do you prefer? I think that's a great idea to max 1 of them. Just pick one of the other, not both, if you don't know what the groups are. I don't really have a strong preference between the two. I mean, the price difference accounts for everything for me. And it doesn't seem like there's a clear player there that's going to get more of the minutes. So it just seems like a crapshoot. Are you thinking Biyombo is a good play today?
Yeah, I think they're both good plays. But this is another situation where Biyombo's projected for 16% ownership. McGee's at 40. We did just get a game 2 games ago where Ayton was out, and you got McGee starting. He played about 23 minutes. Biyombo played 22 and a half off the bench. McGee for the season is the better fantasy producer at 1.3 DraftKings points per minute. Biyombo's at 1 DraftKings point per minute. So I think McGee is the preferred option, but I do also think that gap in ownership is probably a little bit too wide. And to answer the max 1 question, they're cheap enough where you could make some sort of case for playing them together because if they both play 22 minutes, they could certainly both smash. But there's enough other options on this slate where, if I'm playing JaVale McGee, I think I would rather, and then going to another cheap center, I think I would just rather it be Gafford or Claxton or a Kongwu or someone like that, as opposed to Biyombo, just because it gives you that upside where, say, McGee plays 28 minutes, you could also, in theory, get 28 minutes from a Kongwu in that game and really be in a good situation. Whereas with Phoenix, if every minute McGee plays is 1 less minute Biyombo can play.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's good logic. We got 1 minute left. I'll mention Cameron Payne with Chris Paul and Devin Booker out. Seems like a guy that is way underpriced. If he gets the full minutes, do you expect him to get the minutes?
Yeah, I don't expect him to play 38 minutes or anything like that, but assuming he gets around 30 minutes, give or take, he's going to look really good here. Just way too cheap for both of these guys to be out. We know that he's over a fantasy point per minute guy. I don't really have anything at all negative to say about Cameron Payne here.
Awesome. And then the Clippers, just give us your 30-second breakdown of the Clippers.
Norman Powell being back kind of throws a wrench into things. I don't know if he's going to start or come off the bench. I assume he's coming off the bench because he's been out for so long. He's $5,700, so I don't think he's going to matter, himself from a fantasy standpoint. But it certainly makes guys like Batum, Covington, Kennard, Mann even more risky than they already would be. Where I am interested is $6,200 Reggie Jackson. He became less appealing once you got all this other news and stuff opening up. But you can still expect a bunch of minutes from Jackson. We know he's been playing a lot when Paul George is in. And then similarly, Paul George, 9,500 on DraftKings, 9K on FanDuel. He's averaged 35 minutes per game this season. He played 32 or 33 2 games ago. They said that his minutes restriction was going to be loosened. And then there was like a blowout. He only played 29 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if he got back to 35 minutes here against what is Phoenix's B squad minus or plus Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, I like the Reggie Jackson call as well. All right, guys, we got a full hour and a half leading you up to lock and beyond. So make sure to stay tuned. Thanks to our sponsor, PrizePicks. Make sure to check them out with the promo code Awesemo. Get $100 plus a free month of Awesemo Plus. And Gundacker and Greg are going to take you all the way up to lock and then talk some after. So make sure to don't go anywhere, and good luck tonight.
What is happening, guys? We are ever getting closer to the end of this NBA regular season, and just day by day, it seems to get more and more ridiculous. Gundacker joining me once again. We're talking about Wednesday night's action, sponsored by PrizePicks. Do us a favor, guys, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Gundacker, you excited to talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder for another hour and a half or so?
Yeah, I have no idea. Oh my God. He wasn't joking. Okay. Yeah. I don't. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Man, I've been I could hardly sleep last night thinking about who they might sign off the street today, and then they did sign one off the street. So.
You know, it's funny. I was doing a show earlier with Lofty, and we were talking about some of the OKC guys. I was like, I kind of want to see the starting lineup. I don't really know what to make of it. And he had said to me, he's like, you know, I feel good about it. Even when he comes off the bench, he said, Olivier Sarr, he played a bunch of minutes last night. I feel like him, you know, played a bunch of minutes, whether he starts, comes off the bench, he should have a solid role. Like 45 minutes later, he got cut from the team. So that's kind of what we're dealing with when it comes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I do think that Adam brought up a good point, which I assume that he did on other shows, if you guys have watched as well with Adam, which is it's probably more likely today that OKC just starts their normal guys because this is a game they're not really in danger of winning. Not that, I mean, they won yesterday. They were down 19 points in the fourth quarter, but, you know, how far have we gone with tanking if you need to rest Teo Maledon and Aaron Wiggins because they think he give you too big of a chance to win? A road game against the Jazz, probably not a concern. Do you assume that we see Pokusevski, Maledon, and Wiggins all back in the rotation today?
I don't assume anything, but I agree. The what Adam was saying made a lot of sense, right? You're probably not going to beat the Jazz. And then I was like, all right, so maybe we do get Poku. And then the Jazz started resting people. So all I know is after they won yesterday, I couldn't stop laughing because
it was hilarious. When you're sitting Aaron Wiggins, Teo Maledon, Alexei Pokusevski to try to win games, and then you end up blowing, for all intents and purposes, blowing a 19-point lead, right? Because if you, in this game, losing is winning, it ends up not working out here. So we do have some players still on the injury report today. We've gotten a lot of the news at this point, but Bogdan Bogdanovic is questionable. Trent Forrest is questionable. That's a way more significant name for today's slate than I would like to admit, but Trent Forrest is going to be fairly significant here. And Danilo Gallinari is questionable. Norman Powell questionable. But the one that matters the most, would you agree? Trent Forrest, the most significant name on the injury report?
Yeah, it does move some stuff around for the useful guard rotations and probably gives us a higher predictive value in that game of what guards we can roster.
And the reason being for anybody who's like, why does Trent Forrest matter? Well, it's a game against OKC that has a good amount of blowout risk. But then point two, Mike Conley resting, Donovan Mitchell resting, Royce O'Neal doubtful, not expected to play. And then you start to go like, okay, where are the guard minutes going to go? And I think a lot of them go to Trent Forrest. We've seen him play a bunch in these scenarios. But now as we start to talk about the point guard position, potential value that could open up here, first, Gundacker, I want to ask you, do you like Trent Forrest as of now as a points per dollar play? And then point two, if he's out, who the hell is going to handle the ball for Utah?
I mean, Jordan Clarkson's in the mix, right? I was wondering, like, is NAW still there? Is that a thing that we do? I'm looking at his way. I don't truly know, but yes, I would hope once we get that Forrest news that would open up a more definitive, path. So I guess Clarkson would be the first answer.
Yeah, I would assume that Nickeil Alexander-Walker would rejoin the rotation. He has not played really at all much recently. DNP coach decision in the last two games. The game before they played 2 minutes in blowout run. That's really all he's gotten over the last few weeks has been blowout run. But we did see him in the middle of March start a couple of games for the Jazz when they were shorthanded. Game against the Clippers, he played 33 minutes in a start. A game against the Knicks where he just sucked. He played 18 minutes in a start. But if Trent Forrest gets ruled out, it could be time for Nickeil Alexander-Walker to play extended minutes because why not? Why not? And it's not like they need anything specific to beat this Oklahoma City team. This Thunder team, they want no part of winning. They tried to lose one on purpose yesterday, so it doesn't really matter who's in or out. Getting some injury news right now, but it's for tomorrow's slate. Nothing important for today. Let's go and talk about the guards now. And we just talked about Trent Forrest. He's somebody who's going to end up in a whole bunch of my lineups if he ends up being active. But let's talk about guard as a whole now and start with the merits of Luka as a pay-up option. Considering the amount of value on this slate, I'm finding it very, very difficult to get away from Luka. Both FanDuel and DraftKings, he's my most rostered player right now. The reason being is he's just in a tier of his own in terms of spend-up options. You know, we've got Durant is expensive today, Trae Young. I have Luka projected for way more fantasy points than these guys. And considering that everybody's out for the Suns, everything that's going on with OKC, it is not hard to find the wiggle room to get up to Luka. Is he a priority for you tonight?
Yeah, just like last night, all this end-of-season value, when guys are projected for 60-plus fantasy points in a single-digit spread in a game that the Mavs wouldn't mind winning, Luka's. I'm not going to battle without ridiculous amount of Luka Doncic in my lineups tonight.
Yeah, and there's not really an alternative. We've got guys, there's no issue with rostering a Trae Young, or there's no issue with rostering a Kyrie Irving. I have some exposure to those guys, but I just think Luka projects for so many more fantasy points on this slate, and the raw points matter more than the exact points per dollar because we're going to have all these guys on the Suns to roster. But looking at the secondary guard pay-up options, bring in, Trae Young, Kyrie Irving. Who's the guy in the next tier that's making it into your lineups?
At the guard spot?
Yeah.
I was really just expecting to lean on some of these value guards for the Jazz Thunder, and then the Phoenix Suns are probably going to give me a lot of Cameron Payne and lean on them. I've been just really separating one spot for Luka. I will say on FanDuel, Kyrie Irving has got a busted price point, so that's just another spot that I'm giving to him quite liberally. And then just for the sake of ceiling, Trae Young in a game they wouldn't mind to win has 50, 60 fantasy point upside as well. So he's in the blender as well. But right now I'm really just like you, waiting on definitive news to jam in those value guards, because if it's Jordan Clarkson, it's Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah, and it's a little different for me across FanDuel and DraftKings. So right now, my most rostered secondary payout option, Luka's number one for me on FanDuel and DK. But in terms of the secondary guard option, DraftKings, the answer is Trae Young for me. On FanDuel, it's Kyrie Irving, who you mentioned before. Kyrie, point guard and shooting guard eligible over on FanDuel, 8,600 price tag. No clue how Kyrie only ends up being 8,600 coming off a massive game against the Houston Rockets. And also this minutes workload for Kyrie. I think there's a good argument to be made that the amount of time that he took off at the beginning of the year, while not by choice, and then also in the second half of the year when he was only playing road games and not home games, he's much fresher than the majority of star players are at this point of the season. So the last few games, listen to these minutes for Kyrie Irving: 40, 45, 45, 40, 41. Considering where the Nets are in the standings, if this game against the Knicks is remotely competitive, which maybe we shouldn't, or maybe most people wouldn't think it to be, but the spread's 7.5. We're not looking at a really wide spread. It looks like Kyrie's going to be a guy who plays in the neighborhood of 40 minutes. Do you see that any differently?
No, I'm in line, and Goran Dragic still being out. Yeah, we do get Seth Curry back in the mix, but I'm with you, Kyrie. I mean, this Nets team has not been as dominant as the public perception continues to be. So you need those Irving minutes if you are going to rack up these dubs, and this is only a 5-point spread.
Yeah, and it's moved around a little bit, but yeah, that's the point I was saying before. It's not like we're not looking at Jazz OKC with some spread nearing 20 points or anything like that. This is a game that, at least in terms of bookmakers, it's lined to be a fairly competitive game. And when's the last time the Nets really blew somebody out? Like, they played the Houston Rockets at home last night and didn't blow them out. So the last time, let's see, when's the last time the Nets blew a team out? I guess the Miami game. Towards the end of March, they won that game by 15. When's the last time we won by over 20? Oh, you know what it was actually? The game against Orlando when they won. It was like 150 to the game where Kyrie scored all of the points in the world. And probably could have broken like scoring records had it not been so one-sided. That was the one true Nets blowout. But other than that, they've played in a lot of competitive games. They struggle to get stops. Kind of makes it difficult to blow teams out. Let's see. We've got some super chats here coming in. First, from Cheyenne DeWald. Cheyenne, who came in, remember, she accidentally played Buddy Hield yesterday. Couldn't have worked better accidentally playing Buddy Hield. He was one of the top scorers on the slate. It was also a contrarian option, one of the best plays of the day. Better be lucky than good sometimes. So from Cheyenne, are you on board with Horde? How about Isaiah Livers? What's better than the point of the season where we're talking about Jalen Horde and Isaiah Livers as potential options? So starting with Jalen Horde, here's my approach to all OKC players today. If they come off the bench, I want nothing to do with them. And I get that Horde has had a couple of massive games for OKC, but here's something that's a little bit of a concern for me. We talked about it before. I think we're going to see Pokusevski, Wiggins, and Maladon all playing again today. If Horde comes off the bench, I just don't know how we trust him to play big minutes, because 2 games ago when he came off the bench, he played 24 minutes against the Suns, and a chunk of that came in blowout run. Now, is there a good chance they get blown out again today? Yes, but there is so much value on this slate that if Horde comes off the bench, which once again, that is currently what I'm expecting, it's hard for me to project Horde for more than, say like 20 to 22 minutes. Is Jalen Horde somebody that you're liking for today?
Yeah, liking is a strong word. I'm with you on all that. The only thing I was worried about with that is Sar getting cut. I don't know if that means because Roby got 40 minutes, Sar got 40 minutes, Horde got all those minutes. If the minute's still there, even if they did play out, I'm on the fence. But yeah, I feel like Horde, no matter what, I'm an analytics guy. No matter what, I don't have sample size to sway me one way or the other. So if he's in the starting lineup, I'll take the 20-20 upside. Sure. If he's not, then I'll probably be very, very light, if not all the way out on him. Because it's not like we're void of value.
And by the way, to pat ourselves on the shoulder from what happened yesterday, Gundacker, post-lock show, we get that OKC starting lineup. And these guys aren't starting. Pokashevsky, Maladon, Wiggins. We don't get word that they're out, but you and I had both said at the time, we can't play these guys. We don't know what the minutes are going to look like. They might be out of the rotation altogether. And that is ultimately what ended up happening. And Pokashevsky was expected to be massively popular yesterday, did still pick up some ownership. And that's still how I'm approaching OKC today. If somebody comes off the bench, I'm not playing them. Olivier Sarr played 40 minutes off the bench yesterday. You know where he is now? Somewhere else. Nobody knows. He's been cut from the team. We might never see him again in the NBA. So it's just one of those situations. I have to see guys start for OKC to trust him, because or else I have no clue what to expect from the playing time. If Horde starts, go for him. If not, I'm off him. How about Isaiah Livers now? Because that is the other part of Cheyenne's question. So if we look at Detroit in terms of what they have going on in the front court right now, Marvin Bagley is out. I assume he's probably not going to play the rest of the season. And then in addition to that, Kelly Olynyk is resting today. So that does open up some playing time in the front court. Isaiah Livers potentially one of the beneficiaries, but they also have other guys to go to who we've never heard of. Braxton Key, Jamario Pickett. We still have Isaiah Stewart. He's probably going to hold down most of the center minutes. But what are you looking at from the forwards or the big men in general from Detroit? Is Isaiah Livers somebody you're getting to? Or is there somebody else instead of him that you think is the guy for the Pistons?
No, I was getting to him. I was saying there was a lot of 4, 5, 6K guys, all bigs that are kind of holding hands on our projections, all about 30. Stewart, Livers, Key, I don't want to jump around, but Mitchell Robinson, Obi Toppin. There's a lot of guys at that price range. So if you are a little bit more pessimistic like I am, or Dwayne Casey has hurt you, maybe you're a little bit lighter, but it makes sense just going off of projections for Livers to be a fine click.
I just think there's better plays today. So here's the sticking point for me with Livers. He's 5,000 on FanDuel. He's 4,800 on DK. I think there's a lot of guys that are similar to him that are sub 4K today. So that's really the issue I have here with Isaiah Livers. I have him projected for mid-20s fantasy points on a points per dollar basis. Is that bad? No, not really. I just think there's better guys to get to, or at least similar guys that we save some money with. So Jalen Horde, just to recap, only if he starts. Isaiah Livers, that is going to be a no for me. Super chat from Rosso Music. This is a DK tiers question. So all we care about is projections. We don't care about salary. We don't care about what position these guys play. All that matters is who we project to score the most fantasy points. The first one, he's asking us Irving, George, or Cade Cunningham. That is Kyrie for me.
Same.
How about for you? Kyrie, Paul George, Cunningham.
Kyrie.
And then the second one is Porzingis, Barrett, Brown, and DeRozan. I'm going to have to check that one. All right. Porzingis.
Barrett Brown. Wasn't that a wrestler? I'm afraid I got some bad news.
You're more hip to wrestling than I am. I don't know anything about wrestling. Is he dead?
No, he hasn't been on TV in a while. But
okay.
Looking, I think I have. It's Barrett. I'm skittish on Porzingis. What to expect? I don't know. I've been pessimistic on his minutes all day. Barrett, I do like the thought of Barrett without Julius Randle. So Barrett's probably up there. I'm guessing Brown is Jaylen Brown.
Yes.
I have Jaylen Brown right like above Barrett, but I'd probably lean Barrett and hope that game is a little bit more high energy.
I'm going to go with Porzingis. I'm on the same page as you, though, where I'm a little bit apprehensive in terms of playing time for him. For a Wizards team that doesn't really give a shit about games at this time of year, Porzingis still goes out there and plays a good amount of minutes, and he chucks when he's on the court. So if he starts, I have to expect Porzingis plays 28 to 30 minutes with the usage rate somewhere in the mid-30s. If he comes off the bench, just like what we said yesterday when it came to guys like Pokashevsky, Teo Maladon, Porzingis comes off the bench, he's probably not playing. So I need to see that Wizards starting lineup, but for as of now, we haven't heard anything. Porzingis taking a ton of shots. I feel okay with him for now. And we are, oh no, we're not caught up on super chats because we just got another one from Jeff Williams. His super chat is Toppin or Bogdanovich from the Jazz for DK Cash and high dollar GPP. First of all, I've mentioned this a few times as of late. The Bogdanoviches only play on the same slate. For whatever reason, the NBA tries to make it as confusing as possible for when we get questions. So the Hawks and the Jazz only play on the same day. As for Toppin or Bogdanovich, let's see, who do I have projected better? That is Obi Toppin for me. How about you? Toppin or Bogdanovich?
Yeah, same. I have Toppin just with the better projection, and I'm also skittish on Bojan's minute projection tonight as well.
Yeah, and by the way, as for both of them, they're both expected to be popular. 30% projected ownership to Bogdanovich, and we have 25% projected ownership to Toppin. I have Toppin projected for more fantasy points. He's also slightly lower owned, so all that makes Toppin the choice for me. Let's see. Alex Caruso officially ruled out. Zach LaVine officially ruled in. So this is something we kind of knew was going to happen when it came to Alex Caruso. He was listed as doubtful. He got hurt during yesterday's game. You tried to warn me. Yesterday. You said, be ready to be disappointed. I didn't think he was going to get hurt during the game, but that is what happened. Alex Caruso hurt his back, wasn't able to finish the game, and he is not going to be playing today. We also found out that Lonzo Ball is not going to be playing for the rest of the season. Now that he's officially confirmed out and just kind of trying to wrap up everything we talk about at the guard position, where do you see these minutes getting allocated to?
So, I mean, in a sense, they could do the same thing yesterday. Just start Patrick Williams and replace Caruso with LaVine there and just roll out the same unit they rolled out last night.
Yep. And, you know, Kobe White, this is a tough matchup against the Boston Celtics. Kobe White, very high variance player. As we might say around here, Tyler. Sometimes it may be good. Sometimes it may be shit. Good. Sometimes it may be shit. Exactly. That's Kobe White in a nutshell. But there's certainly the opportunity for extended playing time. He played 31 minutes yesterday. He sucked in those minutes. Kobe White will do that sometimes. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. But we got a matchup today. Once again, still not good against Boston, but I like to take the chance on the increased playing time. So Kobe White, I do like as a tournament play quite a bit. Are you on the same page there?
Yeah, I think that's a game I could see the fourth quarter getting completely away, so he can just come in and chuck it, Will.
Look at this. We have got nice little pat on the back from our guy. Dark Topic. He left us a super chat in Canadian money, a little bit of fun colored money.
I thought you
he is saying best duo on the channel. Also, we've got John in the chat saying Greg taking sound bites from Josh Lloyd. I'm friends with Josh Lloyd, but that's also a fairly well-known sound bite.
See,
it's public meme. You can't really steal a meme. It's not like he made the meme. I'll run it by Josh. I'll see if he's okay with it.
Mitchell Robinson ruled out.
Well, that's unexpected. All right, so let's talk about the Knicks. First of all, Mitchell Robinson ruled out, so we have that out of the way. We just talked about Obi Toppin. I have to like him even more now.
Oh yeah,
have to.
Walls of Jericho starting, perhaps, maybe. That's just a guess. Could be Taj Gibson. You never know.
But we already expected. You and I just talked about we like Toppin. Mm-hmm. Nothing changes there. But I think now there's almost, unless he gets hurt or foul trouble or blowout or something, even blowout, he probably plays garbage time run. It is difficult for me to envision anything other than over 30 minutes for Obi Toppin. And we see weird things with Thibodeau's rotations. Not going to be the case today, but let's see who else we could potentially try to find value from here. I think this might just be a lot of small ball from the Knicks looking at their team. Like, are they really going to play Taj Gibson at this point in the season? I know that Thibodeau is out of his mind, but what is the use of playing Taj Gibson 30 minutes? I think he could play 20, like Jericho Sims could as well. We could see Jericho Sims start. We've seen that in the past, but I think we could also just see a lot of small ball with like Quickly, Barrett, Burks, Fournier, maybe all on the court together. I think this is going to make me like Quickly more.
Yeah, I was already privy to Quickly as it stood, doing some studying on their rotation. He was getting a lot of fourth quarter run over Fournier.
So if they do go small, maybe even helps out Fournier to hang around in the fourth quarter. But I'm just kind of guessing at this point because Drummond has shown a propensity to get in foul trouble, and the Nets could certainly go small. So I don't think it's that much of a net negative for the Knicks here when it comes to putting bodies out there.
Let's see. I'm going to refresh our ownership. I'm going to see where Quickly is at right now. Quickly is projected for the 16% ownership on DK. On FanDuel, he's also at 16%. That's probably about appropriate. I thought that maybe he was going to be a little bit lower. So I'll be a little bit overweight to the field on Quickly. Earlier in the day, he was projected for single-digit ownership. So a lot different than now where he's projected for 16 in the latest run of ownership. But I do think there's a chance that he sees extra minutes with Mitchell Robinson out. Even though they don't play the same position, it's just less opportunity for the Knicks to go with more traditional big lineups. We have another super chat here from, I forgot the super chat from Dark Topic. I just said, thanks for the Canadian money. He said, best duo on the channel.
Let's go.
Feather in the cap for you and I. By the way, also, guys, we're going to be doing baseball together as well, Gundacker and I. So check that out. Like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Baseball season starting tomorrow. We have another super chat here from Nate Robinson. Not the Nate Robinson, Nate Robinson.
Just another. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
He's asking Seth Curry threes ? So I assume this is a prop bet question.
I'm right.
I don't know why else he would want to know how many threes we're expecting from Seth Curry. I'm expecting somewhere around 2.5. Let's see what we have over on Odd Shopper. By the way, good time for me to also point out that today's show is sponsored by PrizePicks. Gundacker and I are going to be sticking around for 30 minutes after lock, talking about PrizePicks, trying to find our favorite prop plays on the slate. Also, check out Odd Shopper whenever you're looking for any kind of prop information. Free to use, super easy to find the best NBA prop bets on any given day. It takes like 30 seconds to head on over to Odd Shopper and find some of these players, which is what I'm going to do right now just by sorting by the Nets and looking for Seth Curry. We have Seth Curry projected for 1.93s. I have him a little bit over 2. His prop projection or his sportsbook number is 2.5, but it's also juiced towards the under. If I had to take a side on Seth Curry, it would be the under, just coming off that ankle injury. Don't know what his minutes are going to look like, but he's such a good shooter. It's not a comfortable under, and I only have it slightly under. Numbers already juiced, so that would be a stay away for me. But what do you make of Seth Curry's 3-pointers?
Yeah, so speaking of PrizePicks, I was waiting for a 3-point line to come out. I was expecting it to be 2.5, but his point prop was only 11.5. So I felt like if he was going to get over 2.5 threes, a couple more buckets get me to that 11.5. So I was just leaning on the 11.5. But like you said, I've never got to a confident minute projection. He didn't miss that much time, but them Curry ankles, man, they are a problem, but no Dragic. This lineup does stay small. He probably takes double-digit shot attempts and probably 6 to 8 threes. So right now, I do have a little stake in the over 11.5. So I guess that would be correlated with the over 2.5, but I probably wouldn't bet the 2.5. I would just take the points right now. At least not.
If I had to take one, although I have it really close to, I have him right around 12 points. So hard to feel great about. I'm a little surprised Seth Curry's playing because we had a soundbite from Steve Nash, 2 days ago? He said he thought they were going to hold him out for the rest of the season to gear him up for the postseason. Now all of a sudden he's back in action. It gives me a little bit of pause in terms of projecting his minutes.
Yeah, agreed.
Let's see. Are we all caught up on these super chats now? We don't have any questions in the premium Discord channel. Oh, here we go. Another one popped up. Does Clarkson look like a sure thing today? So let's talk about Jordan Clarkson because he is a massive chalk play today. Over on FanDuel, Jordan Clarkson projected for 48% ownership, the most popular play on the slate. Over on DraftKings, it's projected for 56% ownership, the most popular play on the slate. The other guy that I think we could also throw in here when it comes to popularity, Campaign at 5K, 49% owned on DK. Over on FanDuel at 4,900, 43% owned. What are you doing with the other chalk guards on the slate in Jordan Clarkson and Campaign?
I mean, just they make a lot of sense. So it's hard to argue against stuff that makes sense. So you just find yourself in the boat to, if you just want to go opposite a little bit of ownership and just hope for that range of outcome where they're a meager play and your pivot is the better play. Yeah, then I'd be for it, but I can't really pre-flop say it's a bad play. It makes a lot of sense. That's why it's high owned.
In terms of the actual answer to the question, does Clarkson look like a sure thing tonight? No, nobody's ever a sure thing, particularly not Jordan Clarkson. And also when you consider the blowout risk in this game, And here's another way that I'm going to frame this is I have Jordan Clarkson in the build I have right now is in like 30% of my lineups. It's a healthy portion, but it's less than what the field has right now. So I'm a little bit underweight to him. I'm a little bit overweight to campaign though. Here's what could change that. If Trent Forrest gets rolled out, it's hard to not project Clarkson for a massive amount of minutes. So right now, slightly underweight to Jordan Clarkson. I'll probably end up being overweight if Trent Forrest is rolled out. But if I'm going cheap at guard with one of the super chalk guys, I do prefer campaign. Where do you stand on Payne relative to Clarkson?
Yeah, Payne has just been super saiyan smashing without Chris Paul, and you take out Devin Booker as well. I have, and he's unlike Clarkson. You don't really need him to score 20 points. You know, he can be pretty active with the peripherals and especially the assists. So I think Payne is arguably safer if we're putting a similar minute projection on him.
Yeah, and the other thing too is there's so many guys that are out for Phoenix now tonight, where we have the Suns, the resting Chris Paul, the resting Jay Crowder, resting Ayton, resting Booker. And I know that Mikal Bridges isn't on the injury report. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't end up playing either. So with that in mind, there's only so many guards they have to go to. Here are the available guards for the Suns. Campaign, Landry Shamet, Elfrid Payton, Aaron Holiday, and whoever the hell Gabriel Lundberg is. So there's not that many options. I think Payne is going to be the guy for them. And any interest in Elf Payton as a pivot play off of him?
No, but I do. I want to share it like a theory I have. I don't think Bridges will not play, but he is one of two players to start every game this season. So I feel like it could be a start in park. You know what I mean? So it might be a Torrey Craig explosion spot in the shadows. So I just want to. I don't know where else I would have fit that in there, but you mentioned Bridges. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. So the other thing also when it comes to the Suns, I was just throwing that out as kind of a hypothetical. I don't have any exposure to Elf Payton right now. I could see where people would make that logic, but there's enough value on this slate that I just don't think we need to dig that deep to somebody like an Elfrid Payton. Super chat here from Abel Ramos, third leg Greg and Gundacker attack. Thank you. Thank you for watching the show. Thanks for supporting Abel Ramos. We have another super chat that just came in, one from Michael McKinney. Clarkson or Quickly and Drummond or Capella cash FanDuel. I prefer Clarkson to Quickly, particularly for cash games. In cash, you just have to play Clarkson in cash games. When somebody is projected for, 50, 60% ownership in tournaments, they're going to be like 80 to 90% owned in cash games. That's just something you absolutely have to play in cash. So Clarkson in cash. And then at center, do you prefer Drummond or Capella for a FanDuel cash game?
Probably Capella. I just feel like Capella's minute floor, it's been a little bit more stable than Drummond. And of course,
I just have to throw this out though. If you're playing cash games on FanDuel, play JaVale McGee at center.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be playing anybody other than JaVale McGee. He's min price. All these guys are out for the Suns. He's going to start. He's a good points per minute fantasy producer. I know this isn't what Michael McKinney's question is. He asked for us Drummond or Capella. Neither. Just play McGee in cash and then spend up elsewhere. That's the way you should be going. Shane Daly, which teams are in a kind of must-win mode today? Good question. Which teams does tonight's game matter to? So let's go game by game. We could read these off. Dallas, Detroit. Matters for Dallas. Detroit hasn't played a meaningful game since the third week of the season. So Dallas, not Detroit. Brooklyn and the Nets. Brooklyn, very much so. This game matters for Brooklyn. The Knicks, they have not played a relevant game for about a month or so. So Brooklyn matters. Knicks does not matter. Washington, Atlanta matters a lot for Atlanta. Does not matter at all for Washington. Boston, Chicago kind of doesn't matter for either team. I understand that there's some seeding in play, but what's your thought on this? I was texting with my friends earlier. Do teams like Boston and Milwaukee, do they even want to get to the 1 or 2 seed, or would they rather be a 4 or 5 or a 3 and play like Chicago in the first round as opposed to running the risk of playing the Nets? How much do you think they care?
So I don't know. I will say we'll know tomorrow because the Celtics play Milwaukee, and I guess whatever they throw out will answer that question. But like I said, a month ago, the Nets, you think full healthy Nets, I'm scared of it. But like I said, lately, I don't know, I guess it'll change in the playoffs, but the Nets really have not been that dominant. It feels like game to game. So I don't know. I think the Celtics and Bucks are just really good, and they'll likely beat any of those teams they match up with.
This is going to make people upset. Ben Simmons is massively important for their playoff team. And this is a perfect situation for Simmons, too. He doesn't have to do shit on offense. He just has to defend people. This team cannot get stops. If you add Ben Simmons in the mix just as somebody who's a playmaker, he could have a 7% usage rate. He doesn't have to shoot the ball once on offense, and nobody in Brooklyn is going to care. The fans aren't going to care. Kyrie Irving isn't going to care. Kevin Durant isn't going to care. Just go out there and defend other teams' best players. It'll make a massive difference for the Nets. So I think they really need Simmons back. I know that everybody just thinks Ben Simmons is the worst player in like the history of playoff basketball. But that aside, I think he's really important for their playoff hopes. As for today, Boston, Chicago, do these teams care? I'm not sure. OKC, Utah. OKC, they care to lose. The Utah side, I mean, Utah's already resting guys, so do with that what you will. The game matters to them in terms of seeding, but they shouldn't have much issue dispatching of the Oklahoma City Thunder here. Phoenix Suns, we know this game doesn't matter to the Suns. They're resting everybody. And for the Clippers, doesn't really matter to them either. So that's the roundup there for Shane Daly in terms of which games matter, which games don't matter. Very good question. I appreciate that you gave us that one, because that's a good talking point. Let's hit on the rest of the guards here. And I think we've hit on most of the chalk guys at this point, but are there any contrarian plays you're looking to get to at guard?
Yeah, man, it's like, I feel compelled to get different just because we're getting a ton of high ownership. So I want to, but I don't know that my brain is big enough to get that different looking at the options. I agree so much with Cameron Payne and Jordan Clarkson and Lucas. So I'm just going to probably get different in the middle of the lineup. And I've considered getting a little different at the center spot, with JaVale McGee being, projecting well per minute, but man, those minutes are certainly easier to come by vocally than actionably.
So my contrarian play, I mentioned him right at the top of the show with him being questionable. It's going to matter to me. Trent Forrest is 3K on DK, projected for 7% ownership. He is the flat min on FanDuel, projected for less than 1% ownership. Considering the amount of players that are out for Utah, considering the ease of matchup, if Trent Forrest plays, which is a big if because he's listed as questionable, nobody's going to roster him, and he's somebody I've projected for mid-20s fantasy points. And there's upside for more because there's a lot of variability in those minutes. So I really do like Trent Forrest. That's my favorite guy to go to for contrarian option at guard. Any follow-up take on Trent Forrest?
No, I mean, and if that fell through, you could swap to NAW, and that's bare bones min, and you're going to have enough salary to really do whatever you want. But at that point in the night, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And it's not like people are going to play Nickeil Alexander-Walker or are going to play him either, because he's projected for, I assume, sub 1% ownership on 4% over on FanDuel. Let's see, what is he on DK? 9% on. He's actually projected for a little bit more ownership than Trent Forrest. But either way, I think it's a good point by you. Even if you play Trent Forrest right now, we have a very easy guy to swap to who is not going to be all that popular either. So easy swap to make if he ultimately doesn't end up playing. I'm going to point out, guys, that if you've not signed up for our MVP program, you sign up by texting 1-660-656-4417. This is going to get you access to first beta testing, first look at any new tools we release. Also, you could get some discounts in terms of membership packages that we're going to be sending out via text message. We currently have a 50% off offer for an Awesemo Plus weekly pass discount, but only available for MVP program users. So text that number 1-660-656-4417. If you don't remember the number, because I just read it and I've already forgotten it, it's in the link in the description box below, and that'll help you text that number and get signed up there. Let's move on over to the forwards now. And I want to ask you, because you said that you were unsure about the minutes for Kristaps Porzingis, and I'm kind of in the same boat as you, but considering he's not all that popular, at least on DraftKings, 18% projected ownership. On FanDuel, he's a little more expensive, but projected for 22%. I think he's a really strong tournament play, because if he gets those minutes, he's going to take as many shots as he could handle, and that's basically what we've seen him do for Washington. But what is it about him that makes you uncomfortable?
Well, I would say the more time that has passed with no news is good news for his viability to play. And we're getting really close to 0 hours. So I imagine he's going to play. And if he's going to play, just like his last couple back-to-backs, wasn't really held back, played similar minutes. And last night, he probably left some minutes on the table. So I agree with you. If you can get that without giving up too much equity, why not take a low on 40-50 bomb in your lineup against that Hawks defense?
Yeah, I like getting to Porzingis. As long as he starts, one of my favorite forward options on the slate. We do have a super chat here from Cowboy Smith X. Thoughts on Ish Smith and Jalen Horde as pivots? So we've been getting a lot of questions about Jalen Horde today, and I'm just going to reiterate what I said at the top of the show when it comes to Jalen Horde. If he starts, really good value play. We've seen him crush in his last couple of starts, but I'm not sure he's going to. And if he comes off the bench, I just can't trust the minutes for anybody coming off OKC's bench. It doesn't mean there isn't upside there, but he might legitimately play 0 minutes if he comes off the bench, because that's kind of what we've seen with OKC. If guys aren't starting, ridiculous amount of variability in the minutes. So I wouldn't feel great about him coming off the bench or anybody coming off the bench for the Thunder. For the Ish Smith question, it's tough. I think there's better value plays. If you have some exposure to Ish Smith, it's not the end of the world or anything like that. The assist rate for both him and Satoransky has been absolutely absurd as of late. And I know his minutes last couple of games or last 3 games, 30 minutes, 28, 30. So the minutes have been there. Low priority play for me if he's in a couple of lineups, fine. But I prefer either go to the chalkier guys like Cam Payne or Jordan Clarkson at guard, or paying up for Luka, Kyrie, Trae Young. Is Ish Smith making it into any of your lineups?
Earlier, I was halfway wanting to, but as the news progressed throughout the day, I didn't really see a need to take that risk. Despite, somebody asked yesterday a 2v2, and I was like, the one that's not Ish Smith, and he 2 boards shy of a triple double. So I don't want to disrespect him on back-to-back days and get burned. But right now, no. I think we have solid enough value elsewhere for the guard spot.
By the way, one other thing about Jalen Horde, because people are saying, well, he's going to be popular today. He is $5K on DraftKings and projected for 0.5% ownership. On FanDuel, he is $4,500 and projected for 3% ownership. As of right now, my expectation is that Jalen Horde comes off the bench. I think Wiggins, Maladon, Pokuševski, I think all those guys start again. Now, once again, if Jalen Horde starts, that would change my expectation. Right now, I have him for 22 minutes and just not looking like a great fantasy option. Super chat here from Jorge. For Jorge Jackham. I think there's supposed to be, I'm trying to figure out how it's supposed to be read, because I think there's supposed to be some kind of like play on words or something, but am I missing it, Tyler? What is it supposed to be?
That's a regular Spanish name.
I think
down
that's
here,
I just think that's his name, man. In Texas, that's a name.
His last name is Jackham. All right.
Well, you can't. If his first name's Jorge, the last name would also imply that the J makes the H sound, as in the Spanish language.
Yeah. Jorge Jackham, if I'm really trying to stretch it.
Greg, you're trolling, bro.
Maybe Hakom. Maybe I'm
gonna call him Jorge Jackham. All right. So for our guy, Georgie here. For multi-entries, do you set up any rules in Fantasy Crunch, or how do you construct multi-entry lineups? For your multi-entries, how do you set up any rules? So for a slate like this, I don't have any specific rule set. I think you could just kind of run as is. There's nothing I see problematic. If there's a slate where it's like, one team has 8 value plays and you just run it unencumbered in Fantasy Cruncher, and you're getting to like 8 player, 8, that's unrealistic. But if you're getting like multiple lineups with 4 or 5 guys from the same team, I might go in and just cap that team at 3 players max or something like that. For today's slate, though, there's no specific rules I'm setting. I don't think there's anybody I don't want to be in the same lineup or anything like that. How about for you, Gundacker?
I mean, you can make rules today if you wanted to. You can, drive a wedge between Biyombo, McGee, or maybe Tatum and Brown. Expect, only one of them have a ceiling game. I didn't. I basically just capped most teams at 3 and then some others at 2. Maybe, you talk about Trent Forrest, maybe no Forrest and NAW in the same lineup. But that's just like stuff that it's not something I go out of my way to do unless I'm looking through a crunch and like, all right, maybe I do need to make some separation here. But pre-flop right now, this slate's small enough that I can just let the projections ride.
Yeah, I don't have any rule set for today. Like there's going to be individual slates where I do. Not today though. So I am just good to roll with this as is. Every slate's different. There might be ones on a bigger slate where I don't want Kyrie and Kevin Durant in the same lineup. It's less so of a concern for me on a 6-game slate where we've got lots of value available from a bunch of different teams. So I don't think there's anything you have to do here. All right, let's talk about the other forwards and current chalk at the position. Right now, if you look on FanDuel, the most popular forward play is Jason Tatum, projected for 36.5% ownership. Got Paul George projected for a little bit over 30%. Really, the chalk for today's slate is mostly coming at the guard spot, not as much at forward. So we have Bojan Bogdanovic, who I think is being overowned right now on DK at 30%, the next most popular forward option. DeMar DeRozan at 23%. So nothing we really have to be concerned about in terms of uber chalk. I mentioned I do like Porzingis a lot as an upside play. Who are the forwards that you are getting to the most today?
I find, especially on FanDuel, you mentioned those names. I think those names are just there because you can get them. And small forward is a little bit more shallow, but RJ Barrett looks like he's going to be my highest owned small forward. And not that I was worried about Mitchell Robinson taken away from that, but it just makes me like Barrett that much more. So RJ Barrett's my highest owned forward. I do have some shares of KD. It's a little bit more hoping for a fun atmosphere in MSG, and he definitely has the ability to be the top scorer on the slate. So I'm there on him. And then, like I said earlier, I'm kind of acting on this hunch a little bit on that Torrey Craig call, assuming Mikal Bridges might be a little bit more of a formula at this point. Just log some minutes and sit out, because they seem like they were purposely resting the entire starting crew, and I assume Bridges just wanted to keep his starting streak alive. So I do think Torrey Craig can nuke a slate. So I'm just kind of putting it in the back pocket on the smaller slate, hoping that it goes my way.
I know he's been priced up a little bit. I'm surprised Toppin isn't more popular today, especially now that Mitchell Robinson's out. I just think the minutes there are really secure. Whether the game's a blowout, competitive, I don't think that his minutes are all of a sudden going to be siphoned off to Taj Gibson. We talked about that earlier in the merits of Toppin. I like him a lot today.
Yeah, he's my highest on powered forward.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're on the same page there then. So I think Toppin's a really good look for today. Another one, if we're going a little bit off the board, how do you feel about Rui Hachimura, who's also kind of in that same price range? He is 5,500 on DK, projected for 5% ownership. Over on FanDuel, only 4,800 projected for 16% ownership. He's another guy that I think is a pretty good low-cost option. If we're going to see Washington at all be cautious with Kristaps Porzingis' minutes, which we haven't really seen any indication if they will do that, but I mean, Hachimura would be a guy who I think should play a whole bunch. If you look at his playing time as of late, he played 37 minutes yesterday. They've been getting him the extended minutes for a really long time. I don't know exactly what it was. He had some sort of personal issue where he missed like the first half of the season, and then he was really slow to get his conditioning going after that. He looks all caught up to speed now, played a bunch of minutes yesterday. I think Hachimura is somebody that's getting slept on a little bit, particularly only 5% ownership over on DK. Is Hachimura somebody you like as a contrarian play?
Yeah, I kept him in the pool. Like I said, I was skeptical all day on Porzingis, but at this point, just fully expecting Porzingis to be in the mix. But Hachimura just might get me over 30 at that price point. And like I said, the mid-tier forward isn't as strong. So he's in the pool. In my last crunch, I was sitting about 12%, 11%.
So we have about 12 minutes to go into lock here, and then Gundacker and I are going to be sticking around for 30 minutes. We're going to be talking about prop bets. We're going to be talking about Odd Shopper, and we're going to be talking about PrizePicks, the sponsor of today's show. If you guys are signing up for the first time, use the promo code Awesemo. Get to a $100 bonus on your first deposit. Also get yourself one free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Go check out Odd Shopper if you're making some player cards over on PrizePicks. Super easy, free resource to use to help find the best value of the day when it comes to props. Next super chat here from GMAC84, not EMAC, GMAC, Cade Horde Powell. That's on one side. And then the other side is Payne Barrett Toppin. And then he says, thank you. Thank you very much for the super chat. That's a pretty easy one for me.
Yeah.
Payne Barrett and Toppin.
100% snap call.
I don't know how the hell you trust Cade Cunningham's minutes right now.
There's a lot of, and it's beating a dead horde beating a dead horde. Here we go. Yeah. All right. Didn't even mean to do that. He needs to start. Yeah,
don't take that D out though. But yeah, so Cade Cunningham, I don't have much interest in. Jalen Horde, don't have much interest in. I love campaign today. I love Obi Toppin, and on the other side, it's just a bunch of players that I don't have interest in. All right. Let's see other forwards that I'm getting to. Oh, here's somebody else that we haven't talked about. Considering all the players that are out for Utah, Juancho Hernan-Gomez, we've seen some decent upside for him in some starts. He is 3,800 and projected for 4% ownership over on FanDuel. On DraftKings at 3,400, he's projected for 6% ownership. I assume he plays garbage time if this game's a blowout. Pretty good chance that they blow out the Utah Jazz. That the Utah Jazz blow out the Oklahoma City Thunder. But at the same time, too, even if the game's competitive.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah.
Breaking Celtics news. I feel like we might want to.
Oh, boy. All right. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford are all game time decisions Wednesday. I don't think any of them play now.
Yeah, that news coming this late. Yeah, we might get some Derek White and Daniel Tice might play. Jesus.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, you were asking. Doesn't matter. There's your answer. Do they want to win?
So you know what that means, though? That means that they're probably playing all of these guys tomorrow, right?
Yeah, and I saw Giannis was announced as probable. So tomorrow is, yeah.
I mean, we don't have any other information. We don't know for sure, but these players are officially listed as probable on the injury report. This is sketchy, though.
Yeah, it's very sus. And yeah, we don't have much. I guess we have an hour to react to it, but I'm thinking Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, some guys like that, just be on standby.
Yeah, let's see. We've got, just news. Tatum, Brown, Horford, game time decisions. I don't even know what else to say. I don't even know what else to say about this situation right now. We need more news. If they're ruled out, terrific. If they play, all right, no value to be had. But I think at the very least, we have to be a little bit pessimistic about Tatum, Horford, and Brown's playing time now, correct?
Yeah, and then inversely, the Bulls matchup gets a little better for much of them, right? DeRozan probably profiles a little bit better. Levine, so I don't know.
I wish they weren't listed as probable on the injury report, because that's still kind of, to me, generally indicates they're going to play. The betting line has not moved at all for this game. We've got the Bulls are 6-point underdogs. You can find them at plus 198. Any interest, would you say, in just betting the Bulls right now, and then knowing that if these guys all get ruled in, you could just cash out at the moment that they get ruled in, and there's no damage done?
I trust issues with the Bulls. Maybe take the points and then cash out. Is that what you're saying? Or just trying to cash out the money line plus money?
Yeah, I am. All right, let's see. What is the most amount of money I could bet on the Bulls? There we go. All right, cool. So I just threw in a bet. If these guys all end up playing, I'm just going to cash it out. But for now, I think it depends. If you guys know the cash out options on the site, usually, like, for example, if you bet on FanDuel, if the line just remains the same, you just could cash out the money line for the same exact bet you placed there. So that's what I did. I just bet as much as they allowed me to. If these guys get ruled out, I have a good value bet. If they don't, I could just cash it out and there's no damage done there. So that's how I'm going to be approaching this. Other than that, we need more information. Stick around for the next 30 minutes. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and hopefully we get a starting lineup for the Celtics. Let's hit on, well, actually, anything else in the forward position we didn't mention that you want to bring up?
I mean, the backup, you were pushing Juancho. Royce O'Neal was doubtful, wasn't he? So Juancho definitely could be a little bit obvious in hindsight if he opens up for 25, 30 minutes of action. Because I never expect much from Rudy Gay, and expect even less on back-to-backs in this scenario. So I do want to co-sign that Juancho take.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that he's not picking up any ownership with the guys that are out for the Thunder. Let me refresh the ownership and see. All right, refreshing. The last run we got was still from before. So nothing changed there. We do have some questions in our premium Discord channel that I want to answer before we hit on the center position. How are you doing with your lineups, Gundacker?
My optimizer's currently not working.
Oh, fantastic. So at center position, actually, I'll say this really quick. Play JaVale McGee. Play a lot of JaVale McGee. All these guys that are out for the Suns, JaVale McGee is going to be popular. I do not give a shit. I think that JaVale McGee is a strong chalk option. He should be more popular than 37% owned on DK. I think on FanDuel, he should be more than 37% owned as well. I think he is by far the best center play on the slate. He is someone who's rostering a lot of my center spots. Before we answer these questions in Discord, do you also agree that JaVale McGee should be the priority at center?
Yeah, just too much implied value at that price point, and it's not like we're giving up, Jokic and Embiid, guys like that on a normal slate. So yeah, I'm in agreement.
And let's see, we've got some questions in the Discord channel. Of course, this was slow to open up when I went to go. Here we go. All right, first from our guy Rabashua. Who would you get to more of in the early game on the speculation of the Celtics sitting? Okay, so the first game of the slate is we have Dallas, Detroit, and that's it. So I think we're playing Luka no matter what. I don't think there's anybody else we have to play from the Dallas-Detroit game. Would you agree with that?
Not a priority, no. There's a couple Q plays, but Luka's the priority.
Luka, high priority. Other than that, though, I would just keep as much flexibility as possible. Like I don't want to be a situation where it's like, oh, look, I've played Dwight Powell for whatever reason as a fringe play, or I've played, Jalen Brunson. And then you find out there's just guys that are, massively more important. So I would think of it this way is, do we know for sure there's going to be Celtics value? No, but I want to keep myself, flexible for the chance that we end up getting the value there.
Agreed.
All right. Next question in our premium Discord chat is from Jets World. So is the play for DK Cash to play Luka and Toppin in the same lineup and just wait for late lineup news? So kind of same that we got from before. I like Obi Toppin in cash games. I like Luka. Play Luka from in the Dallas game, the first game to start. I wouldn't play anybody else there. As for Toppin, we'll see. I'm not exactly sure yet, but that's also a game where that starts at 7:30. There's a pretty good chance we'll get a Celtics starting lineup by then. We have from Tall Tale, should we set a rule to not have Biyombo and McGee in the same lineup together?
Could.
I don't like Biyombo that much as is, so I'm just not getting to him, so I didn't have to, but I wouldn't play McGee and Biyombo in the same lineup anyway. Did you set a rule or anything like that?
I wasn't getting any over. Like I said, I don't usually set rules unless I see it becoming a problem, and it didn't become one, but that makes sense.
Super chat from JR. Barrett or Levine, FanDuel Cash? Let's see. Barrett or Levine?
I have more Barrett, but Levine just became a little bit more interesting. He's fresh-legged on the team's back-to-back against potentially not the main Celtics defense,
That's going to be Barrett for me, though.
Mm-hmm.
I have more exposure to him. I haven't projected higher. Everybody's out for the Knicks. There's no Mitchell Robinson, no Julius Randle. Barrett's had a really high floor. He's going to be popular, so I prefer him in cash games. Any other super chats are all caught up? By the way, Tyler, great job with the pictures. I just saw that. So it's the more pictures of me that you could Photoshop of me on the wall, I think the better it is for everybody. Question our premium Discord channel from Mattiette55. All right. Another question on Zach LaVine. Thoughts on LaVine? FanDuel large field, he's only 7,100. I know they could cannibalize each other, meaning I guess the multiple Bulls guys. So I think he's a good tournament play. As for the question before, I do prefer Barrett to LaVine in cash games, but in tournaments, I think LaVine warrants some exposure, but not like as a high priority play. And he's also pretty popular. He's projected for 25% ownership. 24% right now on FanDuel. That's about fair to me. LaVine, 24% ownership. So how are you doing into lineups?
I only have one more to hand put in. I kind of just going to put it down me lineup.
Yeah, no problem. You do that. I'll answer some of the questions here. I'm all good to go. Super chat from Jay Miz. Who do you guys got winning the Masters? Oh, well, there we go. All of the Celtics guys are in now and available to play. So
what the freak? Okay.
There we go. So that was a worthless endeavor. Let me cash this out. All right. So they're playing. I don't even know why we got that update. Didn't matter.
What a okey doke.
They're all playing. Super chat from Andrew Kang. Sup, boys? Gundacker, don't really see you, but you're great. Yeah, Gundacker filling in for Eric. Eric, too soft to handle last week of the season. Greg, you're a pimp. I'm going to win big tonight, boys. All right, there we go. We just got a super chat. I'm a pimp. You're great. Good information. I like that. I like that update. Super chat that we got from Jim is, by the way, is who do you guys got winning the Masters? I mean, if I had to pick somebody, I'd go with Jon Rahm just because he's the betting favorite. I'm pretty sure our projections also have him as most likely to win, but I'm not that plugged into PGA. Gundacker, do you have a pick, or are you also not that plugged in?
I know next to nothing about golf.
Yeah, I didn't want to stereotype, but from looking at Gundacker, be like, it doesn't look like somebody who knows a whole lot of golf. But there we go. My pick is Jon Rahm, Gundacker, unopinionated. For what it's worth, I talked to my dad on the phone before, and he took Justin Thomas. My dad is also, if you guys want to know my dad's qualifications to talk about golf, he's like a 20 handicap. He's got a bad back, one bad knee. He's going with Justin Thomas. That's his expertise. We are caught up on super chats now. All right. So anything else we got in the Discord channel? I think we're all caught up there as well. Unless anything. Oh, here we go. We did get one from Ryan Muth. He said, who are the best targets on the Celtics? If Tatum, Brown, and Horford said, it doesn't matter. They're all playing. We just found out. So nobody. Let's talk some PrizePicks now, Gundacker. And once again, if you guys have not signed up for PrizePicks, you could do it using the promo code Awesemo. Get yourself up to $100 bonus on your first deposit. And you also get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Over on OddsShopper, really useful tool to use. Free, help you find the best projections for all prop bets. We've got projected ROIs, projected win rates for all these, and some of it's going to correlate with some of the DFS plays we like. So the number one guy that we have in our projections, Obi Toppin, over 1.5 assists. That is a bet that we're winning 71% of the time for a 52% expected ROI. Gundacker, tell me what you're looking at on PrizePicks today.
Well, I was on Horford fantasy points. I had a little scare there, but I guess I'm staying there. That was one of my top options there. I actually have a whole list. Let's see. I kind of had I was thinking Dwight Powell fantasy points as well without Maxi Kleber is interesting. 30 minutes is there for him. And then Obi Toppin. I got him at a much better number earlier than I'm sure he's going to come back at.
So we have Al Horford as an over-under of 31. I have Al Horford projected for a little over 33 fantasy points. Now that we've got confirmation that he's in, I'm with you. I like the over on Al Horford's fantasy points. He's a massively, massively different player when Robert Williams is out versus when Robert Williams is in. He scores about 1/10 of a fantasy point more per minute without Robert Williams on the court. And we also get a few more minutes out of Horford. I'm on the same page as you. I like the over there. We did get some news. Jericho Sims is going to start in place of Mitchell Robinson. So the Knicks starting lineup, Burks, Fournier, Barrett, Toppin, Sims. What do you like about Sims now that he's starting? Is he somebody worth getting to?
If you need, we don't really need that much more value. We did see him start a couple games earlier this season, and we've also seen him play big minutes and really be kind of irrelevant. With these value guys, can they break a slate for me, get me 30? I haven't really seen that from Sims, and I don't think I'm going to change anything to get to him. I'm going to just stick with Obi Toppin.
Yep, I'm in the same boat as you. 2 starts from Jericho Sims this year, 27 minutes per game, 17 fantasy points in those starts. And so you might say, all right, only a 2-game sample size. The minutes were there. The fantasy production was not. But now we look at his year-long numbers where he's playing 11.8 minutes per game and averaging 7.82 DraftKings points. He's flat out not a good fantasy producer. If this was a slate where, if this was a normal middle of the season slate where we didn't have that many value guys to get to, I would say, sure, take a shot on Jericho Sims. Not for today. There's, 20 or so better value options than him. So not somebody that I really have a desire to get to. More super chats here. First from my Phil Arc. Not a question, just a comment. Golf is not a sport. How do you feel about that? Respond, Gundacker.
Whoa, deflection. The can be moved.
No, I already have an answer preloaded, so I want to get yours first. I don't want to influence you.
Bro, I bet on kids playing League of Legends, and that's a sport. So I'm not going to take anything away from swinging.
It's a video game, not a sport. All right, here's golf is a hobby. It's a hobby that takes hand-eye coordination. It takes It takes some skill. You could even argue it takes athleticism. Doesn't make it a sport. So then we have to figure out what is the definition of a sport. To me, a sport is any activity you play that involves athleticism, that involves some sort of force playing defense, trying to prevent you from scoring. So you want to know how you make golf a sport? You're in a foursome. The other golfers have a shotgun and they're shooting at you while you're playing. You're trying to hit guys with the clubs running up and down. That makes it a sport. As of right now, though, it's a hobby. It's one that takes skill, but it's not a sport. Hobby. What makes something a sport?
I guess it does lack event-based competition. I guess you're like no one's blocking your shot, I guess, and every other sport does have that element of defense. So I guess in that regard, cool, but I don't have an opinion and I don't want to get canceled, Greg.
All right. So this is further. You can't get canceled for saying that golf isn't a sport.
There's a lot of golf people out there, man.
But I don't have anything against golf. I played golf competitively in high school. I was a scratch golfer. I was a very good hobbyist. Not an athlete though. At least not from that standpoint. It wasn't a sport. It's a good hobby. Good hobby.
Make a lot of money from that hobby.
We've got from Julio G. He wants to know what's up with Fantasy Cruncher. Was down. Let me see if, luckily, I had my lineups set earlier. Let's see if it's back up now.
Yeah, it's running for me now. I just
Fantasy Cruncher is back up now. So it is good to go now. If you guys go back into Fantasy Cruncher, you will be able to pull it up. By the way, nothing against golf. There's guys that are very good at golf. Just not a sport. Doesn't matter. Bowling isn't a sport either. Esports. I know it has sport in the title, not a sport. Video game, hobby. My filler arc. Thank you, third leg, Greg. And esports ain't a sport either. They are hobbies. That's where I stand also. You have to come up with a definition of what a sport is. And then you have to figure out what meets that criteria. Right. So if you just came up with
Greg, I showed the definition of sport. It is an activity involving physical exertion and skill that is governed by a set of rules or customs and often undertaken competitively. That is golf.
Yeah, that's. I didn't realize you showed that on the screen, but
I mean, video games fit that mold too. I mean, how much physical exertion?
I'm with you on the esports, Gundacker. I think it's classified as a sport.
All right. So an activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment. I mean, I get it. But to me, to actually be competing against somebody else, they have to be physically resisting you in some way. So when you're like, to me, what you're really competing against in golf is the golf course, not the person. Fair or not fair?
Yeah.
Other people are playing, they're putting up scores, but you're not competing against them directly. You are in terms of whoever has the best score wins, but you're not actually playing against them in any way. You're playing against the golf course.
So if you race somebody, I guess
right.
You're
so
racing
in that case,
their time.
Is track a sport? Because you're technically the same aspect. You're racing yourself, and everyone's just in a line that happens to be a competition.
Only if other people are trying to tackle you while you're running the race.
Okay. So
or else what's the boundary? If I eat too many tacos and I have to run to the bathroom, is that a sport? Like what's
so Usain Bolt, not an athlete, confirmed?
No, he's an athlete.
Oh, he's an athlete, but he's not a sport guy.
No. He's somebody who runs to keep in shape. He's very good. He's very good at cardio.
You said it, not me.
Yeah, he said. Which by the way, you could be an athlete. You could be a really good athlete, have excellent hand-eye coordination, and be a really good golfer. It doesn't mean that golf individually is a sport. Also doesn't mean that you're unathletic. I'm really trying to push Gundacker to agree with me, and he's having none of it.
I'm very political, man. I'm trying to be Emacs VP. I can't get canceled this close to the election.
Come on, Emacs Origins. We're doing hand favors for guys under the Queensboro Bridge for like $20. Trust me, the bar for being on his cabinet is very low. He had a very modest start to his political career. You'll be good. Just like you're not going to be thrown off the island of his cabinet because you said golf wasn't a sport.
But he is old, and old people love them some golf.
That is true. He is old. I don't think he macks much of a golfer either.
What about the cheese rolling event in Europe? Is that a sport? Because that's a direct.
I don't know what it is.
You've never seen that where they roll the cheese down the hill and they all run down the hill to get the cheese. Oh, it's a great video.
Clue what this is.
You should research it. It's a sport. That's a sport.
Hot dog eating sport?
No, I don't think that's enough physical activity for my book.
Okay, so I'm going to say this. No, that's pretty physical. If you think golf is a sport, if you think esports are a sport, you have to think hot dog eating is a sport then.
Yeah,
I think you have to.
It's a physical inertia. Like it's not. I don't know, man. We are. Hey, Horford over fantasy points.
We've got some more super chats here. By the way, I used to play golf a lot. This isn't anything against golf. I like golf in general, but it doesn't necessarily make it a sport. Super chat from Samuel Schaefer. How confident are you guys in the Celtics starters playing decent minutes? I feel good at this point.
Yeah. Weird little okey doke there, but no harm, no foul, I guess. I can't really change projections this late for no reason.
We've got another super chat here from Oliver. Once again, from Oliver Closeoff. That is Oliver Closeoff. Rank on FanDuel. Oh, we got good job, Tyler, putting the poll up. This will settle it once and for all. We'll see where people are. Oliver Closeoff. Rank on FanDuel. NAW, House, Gay, all for 3,500. Of those guys, so it's going to depend on whether we get news Trent Forrest being in or out. As of now, I don't really like any of them, but Nickeil Alexander-Walker is the one that I view as having the most upside.
I have the most NAW.
Yeah, I think NAW is the best option of those. It's going to be dependent on if Forrest plays or not. All right. Oh boy, I now really have to scroll down a lot because there's a lot of comments that have come in. So I'm scrolling. All right, I think we're all caught up on super chats now. Let's get back to PrizePicks. So we were able to identify one that we found Al Horford's in. We got the over on his fantasy points. Do you still feel good about that number?
Yeah, I know that weird report. I don't know what was behind it. I don't know if somebody misinterpreted a pregame interview or something, but I got to stick with what the projections were. And without Robert Williams, I think he was number one on the team in total rebound opportunities, percentage-wise. So I'm just going to stick with it.
All right. And now let's hit on some other ones that we could find in Odd Shopper. So let's see, which Knicks players are on PrizePicks? We've got RJ Barrett, 36. Is there anything on Toppin here? Toppin, 31. Where do I have Toppin? I'm trying to find some of the players that I had the most exposure to. 31 is probably a stay away, but also it kind of goes to show what makes Toppin a good DFS play. If his over under for fantasy points is 31, when he's priced in the mid 5K range, you have to feel pretty good about that in terms of him being a value play. Mm-hmm. Other Knicks guys, I don't mind over 30 fantasy points for Alec Burks.
Yeah, I don't have any exposure to that, but it makes sense.
We've got some questions. Oh boy, I've really set myself up here. I thought we'd move past this, but now we got questions in the premium Discord channel. At me, you don't have to answer this one. This is just directed directly at me.
Okay.
By my definition, are Olympic sprinters hobbyists too? No, they are workout enthusiasts. JEW, are you saying that any of the Olympics are not sports? Most races are not sports to me. However, there's a lot of things that are sports in the Olympics, like wrestling. That's a sport. It's a sport for sure. Hockey, sport. Basketball, sport. Is NASCAR a sport? NASCAR is not a sport. That is driving cars.
Really? Okay.
Is it if I go drive to Costco because I'm out of almond milk? Is that a sport?
Is a guy trying to cut you off and get there before you?
If your Costco's 500 miles away and you have to drive 200 miles to get there, an hour to get there.
I don't have to drive 200 miles per hour. I choose to. If I'm out of almond milk, it's an emergency. We're going to Costco in a hurry.
I would say it's a sport, man. Turning them steering wheels can't be easy. Sitting 100 degrees can't be easy. Blocking and trying not to die at 180 miles an hour on a 4-wide in Talladega. I'm gonna go ahead and give them the benefit of the doubt being a sport.
Is Pokemon a sport? No, that's a video game as well.
Yeah, I've never got into that, so I don't. I'm assume no.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you were a Pokemon trainer, you're really no different than what like Michael Vick was, I guess. If we're just thinking of it literally in terms of what it was, no, but also Michael Vick played a sport, but that not one individually. By the way, the current results of the polls is golf a sport. 72% say yes, 28% say no. Poker is a game. Yes, poker is not a sport. What else is in the Discord channel? Let's see, are more people coming at me about this?
Bruh.
Do we got more people? Not yet. All right, let's try to find a couple.
Oh my God!
Water polo.
Water polo.
That's
water polo. Water polo is a
similar
sport
to soccer. Okay, all right. Water
polo is not only is water polo a sport. I would drown if I tried to play. Have you guys ever seen water polo? That is exhausting. I'm not a good swimmer. I am not a good swimmer at all. The fact that people are playing like a fairly physical game where you have to just stay afloat and they don't get like water wings or anything, that is not easy. Could you do water polo, Gundacker?
I'm not sure what that is, to be honest. If it has to do with
you don't know what water polo is?
No. Is it on TV?
It is during the Olympics. It's like
watch that.
It's kind of like soccer played in the water, but you throw with your hand.
Okay, I'll give it to him. Yeah, sure.
Trent Forrest available to play today. Royce O'Neal officially ruled out. I really like Trent Forrest as a contrarian option.
All right. Would it make a difference if it came out and he wasn't like in the starting lineup?
I would still like him as a contrarian option relative to his ownership right now. Because he is, let's see, where do we have him at right now? And I'm not saying he's my most confident play on the slate or anything like that, but I do think there's an opportunity for him to play extended minutes. He's the flat min, 6% projected ownership on DK, 1% ownership at the flat min on FanDuel. I think he's worth more exposure than that.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, we've got some real hot questions in the Discord chat, but first we got to answer the basketball relevant questions from JR. Rudy Gay, Juancho, Batum, FanDuel cash last man, and Juancho amongst those guys.
Yeah, so with the Forest news came O'Neal out, so that is a plus for Juancho, so I'll just take Juancho.
All right, now it's time for me to get trolled more in the Discord channel. Of course, two of these at the exact same. Multiple people asking me, is sex a sport? It depends. Do you have I won't go any further with this. In certain situations, yes, it can be. Mike 1377. What about, especially if it's a competition, which happens also in certain scenarios. From Mike 1377. What about curling? Curling would only be a sport if somebody tried to hit you over the head with that rock. As it is right now, it's not. Curling is closer to cleaning than it is like a competition. By the way, that was really funny. When you went to take a drink, your bottle disappeared on the green screen.
Yeah, my girl brought me green tea, so I'm not answering that last question, by the way. But yeah, it disappears in the green screen.
Would you consider curling a sport?
Like weightlifting curling?
No. So curling is I'm trying to think how to describe it. So curling, it's a Winter Olympic sport. And do you know what bocce ball is?
No. Okay, I know. I just Googled it. So that's like where they like mop in front of the thing.
Yeah. So you slide a rock on the ice, and then you try to you try to sweep the ice or push more ice in front of the rock to either speed it up or slow it down, and then you try to get it to stop in the middle of the target.
Yeah, I know exactly what that is, and it just makes me laugh when I see it. Like, how on earth was that ever practical, and who came up with that as being? But I guess no disrespect to any curling people out there. It just seems like what a weird childhood dream to want to be a professional curler. But by your definition, no.
No,
one's trying to
that's,
stop
that
it,
is
right?
that is not a sport. That is not a sport.
You're just an elite squeegee artist.
It's more similar to clean. It's once again, it's a hobby. It's a competition, not a sport though. Shane Daly is WNBA sport. First of all, I don't have the time to watch everything in terms of like every sport. I watched a lot of the women's NCAA tournament. Dude, some of those games were awesome. I had some bets on them also, but the what was it? UConn against. Not the final game. The final game wasn't close. Who did UConn play in the Elite Eight, though? They played against SC State or something like that. The game went into double overtime. It was ridiculously good. We have another super chat here from Ruguru228. Bojan Bogdanovic, okay if in DK cash. Yes, and he is going to be in. And as for Bogdanovic, I think he's going over-owned in tournaments. But for cash game purposes, we're just projected to be over 30% owned. No issue with them whatsoever in a cash game. I know you were kind of with me where you thought that Bogdanovic was maybe going a little bit over-owned in tournaments. But for cash games, would you be cool with him on DK?
Yeah, at that ownership, you're not really gaining or losing traction, and it's an awkward price range anyway.
And all right, I think we are caught up on super chats right now. Some more questions in the premium Discord channel. First from Tall Tale. Is 30% Forest cool for GPP? It's a strong stance. I don't mind it, though. I think there's a lot of upside in Trent Forest. Also offers a little bit of leverage off of Jordan Clarkson. For DK GPP, this is from Mr. Moneybags. Reggie Jackson versus Emmanuel Quickly. Who do I have? Let me check. Off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure that's Quickly, but I'll double check.
Same.
Quickly v. Reggie Jackson. I have Quickly.
Yeah.
By the slightest of hairs.
Same for me. And I would say if you're sweating Quickly at half, in the last 5 games or so, he's been stealing Evan Fournier's fourth quarter run. So there's still hope if the fourth quarter hasn't started.
Yeah. So, and the other thing too is I'm not totally sold that we're going to see like massive minutes from the Clippers guys. I think it's more likely than not, but I do have a little bit of reservations. That game doesn't really matter for them, and we've got a lot of guys resting on the other side of that game. Let's see, where else can we go for prize picks? All right, Gundacker, go head on over to Odd Shopper for me. Tell me what catches your eye. What are some of the things that project out well for us at Odd Shopper that you look at and you go, you know what? Let's look for that over on PrizePicks. That's something that could have value.
That would actually be on the board here. Bruce Brown 3-pointers.
Bruce Brown. Let's see. 3s for Bruce Brown. He's not one of the options right now in PrizePicks. Game doesn't lock for 17 minutes, but not there. Are there any other numbers for Bruce Brown? 11.5 points. It would help if I spelled Bruce correctly when I was doing a search. 19.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. 26 fantasy points. Do any of those appeal to you?
Depending on what we get as minute projection to be, assuming he's still at 30, I think the PRA might be a little light. I know Curry's back, but Dragic isn't, and James Johnson was out, so I feel like still a strong chance for 30 minutes, and I'd probably take a shot at the fantasy points, but it wouldn't be a warm and fuzzy click.
By the way, I've got some people on Twitter that are mad at me too.
Like in my head, you're doing this on purpose, right? Like just engagement farming. Trolling.
No, there's a difference between sports, competitions, and hobbies. Illegal Form Nation on Twitter was saying to me that I believe that 75% of the Olympics are not sports. I think they're athletic competitions. It's fine, just not sports. They're different things to me. I categorize them.
I feel like if that was a crossword puzzle clue, another word for athletic competition, sport would be the first word that comes to your mind, right? I don't know.
No, not necessarily. I just categorize things differently.
You do. You do.
Oh, you know what we haven't done yet? We haven't sweated the start of the games. Do you know what's going on in these games? By the way, Gallo and Bogdanovich both available to play for the Hawks. Let's see what we have going on. So only one game happening so far. It is the Mavericks-Pistons game. Who's off to a good or weak start? Quick start here. Luka Doncic, 6 minutes, 9 points, 2 assists, and a rebound. He has not been ultra efficient from the field, but who cares? He's got 9 points, 2 assists, and a board, so good start for him. Nothing else really going on from Dallas. From the Detroit side, it looks like everybody on this team has around 5 fantasy points. Not good, not great either. So nothing there that really changes anything for me.
For PrizePicks centric, I had Dwight Powell over 6.5 rebounds, and he picked up a quick 4.
There you go. That'll do. 3 points, 4 boards, and a steal in the first 6 minutes for Dwight Powell. That is a good start for him for fantasy purposes for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was looking like a good number that you got on there with Dwight Powell. We have a question. Where was this? Oh, was this in Discord that it is? Oh, yeah, here it was. All right. Iron Maiden 2. Do you think PG-13 gets his normal run tonight with him ending the season on a back-to-back? You're not going to like the answer to this question. Maybe. I think he's more likely to than not, but I'm not totally confident. How about you? Do you think PG-13 gets normal run tonight with them ending the season on a back-to-back?
I guess define normal, 30, 35. I'm with you. I think he's more likely to, but I think it's more of and the fact that Norman Powell is going to get some run. I think Ty Lue's really just trying to get some rotations out there so he knows what to turn to in the playoffs. So with neither team going forward or backwards, it could just be a scrimmage style approach. And if he's worried about keeping his lungs open, I think he's more likely to play the normal 30 plus. I didn't have to weigh it too much in fantasy because didn't need to play Paul George, but I think he probably does.
I think if you ask me to, because I think everything's a sliding scale at this point in the season. I can't say 100% yes or no. I'd say like 80% yes, 20% no. 80% he plays full minutes, 20% chance he doesn't. Do you think that's a reasonable way to put it?
Yeah.
Stephen Leibowitz in YouTube chat is saying that would be a great heel in wrestling. I know you've got a wrestling background yourself. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, you would probably need a big bodyguard type and be the mouthpiece and, just irk people while the bodyguard bailed you out of the sticky situations while angry golfers came for you.
I can't believe, maybe say can't believe, but there was more than once where I was pretty sure somebody was going to punch me in the face after a comedy show. Never actually happened though. Because
you didn't talk about anybody's wife, did you?
Oh, of course I did. No, I like trolling people when I'm on stage also, but everybody was always kind of cool about it. We have a super chat here from Dad Ferrer. Patrick Williams, DK single entry small field. Not the highest of priority plays for me, but I like Patrick Williams a little bit today. If you have him in your lineup, I have no issue with that, especially with Alex Caruso out. Patrick Williams, he's looked great so far this year.
Yeah.
Look up his numbers right now from what we've seen. So Patrick Williams has, in the last couple of games anyway, because I think we have to grade him a little bit on a scale considering that he was coming back from an injury and a lot of time off. But the last 3 games, at least, 32 minutes, 24 fantasy points, 30 minutes, 30 fantasy points, 37 minutes, 33 fantasy points. It looks like we're going to be getting another game with 30 to 32 minutes from Patrick Williams. I think he's a good tournament option.
I think so. If he starts, I wouldn't be as happy to play him if he starts because earlier in the season as a starter, he wasn't really doing as much with high usage guys like Levine and DeRozan and Vooch, and it's not a great matchup against a now not rolled out Celtics team. So I would taper my expectations. If he got 20 or less, I think that's very likely. If he started, if he came off the bench, I'd probably be more receptive to click his name, but I wouldn't be that enthralled as a starter.
Right. Let's see. We only got a couple minutes left to go here. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not yet done it. Also, any final thoughts for you on tonight's slate, Gundacker? Anything that people should be looking out for?
Late. So I mean, this can be the most profitable type of slate at this time of year if you're around being able to late swap. Some of you guys that, believe in fate, maybe it's fate that your opto was a little unstable to start the slate, get you away from some of those early game traps and get you more exposure to those definitive lineups that come out later. That Thunder lineup could be a big lineup as well tonight and become a millionaire like last night, right?
Couple things to look out for. Utah Jazz starting lineup and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Same game, both sides of that. Look for the starting lineups. That's going to be massive in terms of when it comes to late swap. Other than that, guys, one more time, please like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck tonight. Golf is not a sport. See you guys again tomorrow.